meeting. Would everyone please rise? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Welcome, everyone. Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, September 18, 2025. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and posting the agenda on the municipal website. Ms. Porcelli, could we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mrs. Andrews?
Present.
Ms. Chevalier?
Here.
Mr. Izzo? Adelson? Mr. Scogno? Here. Mr. Stoner?
Here.
Ms. Testaverde?
Here.
Mr. Singh? Absent. Ms. Gomez? Here. Chairman Sullivan?
Here. We are working under a handicap here. I know this is going to go down on a recording, but as I just mentioned, please, if you're testifying this evening, I would ask everyone here, please turn your cell phones off so there's no interference. And secondly, if you're testifying, there's only one microphone at the witness table. It's got to be shared by, obviously, the attorney and the witness. We're working limited up here with one microphone that I'm sharing with counsel, and there's another one to pass around. Ms. Sawant has that right now. Tonight of counsel is Martin Buckley from the Dasty firm. We thank you for being here and being of counsel tonight, sir.
Thank you.
Having said that, we'll move forward. We have minutes, and those minutes are for two of them, board members. The first one, minutes of August 28th, 2025. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review them. Absent any commentary, I'd ask someone to move them for adoption.
Testaverde.
Is there a second?
Andrews, second.
I think that was Mr. Scogno that second. Roll call when you catch up on that.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno? Yes. Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Yes. Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Board members, the second one would be September 4th, 2025. Same applies. Someone move it, please.
Testaverde.
Is there a second?
Andrews, second.
Roll call on the minutes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno? Yes. Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Yes. Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Okay. That brings us to our resolutions, board members. We have four to get through. The first one is 2025Z. It's Sandip, Romoli, and Neatman Hunt. That's a C variance. Counselor?
This is for a resolution of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, granting bulk variance approval for property known and designated as Block 15513, Lot 566, aka 34 Buttonwood Drive, here in Old Bridge Township, New Jersey.
Board members, someone want to move that for adoption, please? You've heard the resolution.
Testaverde.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Yes. Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. 24-2025Z, it's Jitin Gupta. It was a C variance. Counselor?
This is a resolution of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, granting bulk variance approval for property known and designated as Block 7125, Lot 16, aka 32 Gazania Drive in
Yes.
Old Bridge Township, New Jersey.
Board members, you've heard the resolution. Someone want to move it, please?
Gomez.
Is there a second for adoption?
Second Stoner.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Yes. Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. Fine, 26-20, I'm sorry, 28, what do you have next?
26.
Okay, 26-2025Z, Harold Cunningham, C variance.
This is a resolution of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, granting bulk variance approval for property known and designated as Block 26027, Lot 62, AKA 25 4th Street in Old Bridge Township, New Jersey.
Board members, as to the resolution, someone move for adoption?
I'll move it, Stoner.
Is there a second?
Gomez.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Yes. Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. 28-25Z, 2025Z, Enzo Dinton, C variance and a design waiver. Counselor?
This is a resolution of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, granting bulk variance approval for property known and designated as Block 17009, Lot 8, AKA 19 Schindler Drive North, Old Bridge Township, New Jersey.
Board members, someone move that for adoption.
I'll move it, Stoner.
Is there a second?
Andrews, second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Yes. Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. We're going to move forward. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Buckley to swear in our two professionals here this evening. Did Mr.? We'll get him when he comes in. Ms. Sawant?
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Before we go to our application, before we commence our proceedings this evening, I wish to make an announcement and offer comment regarding one of our current members. Mr. Ben Stoner, seated to my left, your right, and his wife are relocating to the southeast to be closer to family. Mr. Stoner has been a faithful member of this zoning board since 2014, performing a sworn civic duty on behalf of the Township of Old Bridge. Tonight will be Mr. Stoner's last meeting with the board. On behalf of the board, I'd like to acknowledge his 12 years of service and extend best wishes to him and his family as they begin their new chapter. I hope I would ask you all to join me in a round of applause. Thank you very much. We're going to move on with our applications. They'll be in order except for the first one. The first is going to be 41-2024Z. It's Zahir Hussein. That's the R20 low medium density. There was a C&D variance. This is a continuance. The block is 24204 lot 36. This physical location, 12 Yosemite Court, Old Bridge, obviously. Two-story addition and deck. Lawrence Sachs, Esquire.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Lawrence Sachs on behalf of the applicant. I represent Zahir Hussein, property located at 12 Yosemite, block 24204, lot 36. And the board will recall we were here back, I think in July, maybe July 18th. And at that time, we presented testimony from the applicant. We described what was being proposed and their needs for this rear. I'm sorry, better. And their needs for the rear yard addition that's being proposed with part of this application. We had also our engineer, Gary Chang, testified at that point and also described the project and also gave a brief description of the layout based on the elevations and architectural plans. And if the board will recall, this addition is confined strictly to the rear of the house so that nothing will be evident from the street. The appearance of this house will remain the same from the streetscape standpoint. During the course of the hearing, we provided some testimony as to the variance relief that was being sought. However, we recognize that because it was a D4 variance, there is a floor area ratio variance here. We needed to come back here with a professional planner, and we've done that this evening, Mr. Chairman. So I do have Ms. Colleen McGurk, who is a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, and she will provide her testimony as to the D4 variance relief that we're seeking and also the C variances that are required in this application.
You'll be sworn by the council?
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name and spell the last name?
Colleen McGurk, M-C-G-U-R-K.
M-C-G-U?
G-U-R-K.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. McGurk, let's just get you qualified. If you can give the board the benefit of your professional education and background.
Yes. I obtained a master's in urban planning from Boston University. My license is current, and I am a member of AICP. My firm, Swick, & McGurk, began in 2019, and I have testified before multiple boards throughout New Jersey, including this board.
Mr. Chairman, if we can have Ms.
Ms. McGurk has testified before this board, and we accept her expertise and credentials.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right,
And
Ms.
good evening, members.
All right, Ms. McGurk, I know you've had an opportunity to review the plans, you've reviewed the engineering plans, the architectural plans, and as well, you've had an opportunity to review the transcript, which has been provided to all the board members from the July 18th hearing. Based upon your review, if you can provide your analysis and professional opinion as to the variance relief that's being sought.
Yes, okay, thank you. The property in question, Block 24204, Lot 36, contains a total of 25,296 square feet and is located at 12 Yosemite Court. The parcel contains an existing 3,900 square foot, two-story, single-family dwelling and is part of Machaponic's development. So tonight, we're asking the board to allow the applicant to construct a two-story rear addition, 770 square feet on each floor. The property is located within the R20 zone, and this is a permitted use. In order to construct the addition, we require a floor area ratio D4 variance, since the max permitted floor area ratio is 0.17, and we are proposing 0.216. All of the other setbacks are being met. We do also require a landscape area ratio variance. The site plan approval for Machaponic's Estates requires a landscape area ratio of 0.85, whereas we currently have 0.80, and we are proposing 0.76. The applicant has already provided testimony regarding the addition and how it would better meet the family's needs, and that the intensity of the dwelling is not increasing, since there are existing 4 bedrooms, and there will be 4 bedrooms. There will be no increase. The side yard and front yard setbacks will remain the same and meet or exceed the ordinance standards. The existing rear yard setback is 77.2, and we are proposing 65.5, which still exceeds the required 40-foot minimum setback. So clearly, the addition can be accommodated on the property with no detriment. The addition would be approximately 50 feet from the property line to the west and would be buffered due to the existing tree line, and would be approximately 60 feet from the property line to the east. And again, there is substantial landscape buffering, so there will be no negative impacts since the addition is not large, measuring only 16 feet in length and 23.83 feet in width, and will not be higher than the existing dwelling. It will also not be visible from the road. With regard to the landscape area ratio, there is a substantial amount of trees on the property that will remain in perpetuity due to the conservation easement. So there is more than ample landscaping on the property, and no trees are being removed from the addition. That is, on the screen there is a map, that is near map, an image. It's showing 583 feet to the west of trees, wooded area, and 693 feet to the south-southeast. So it's all wooded area.
And just so the record's clear, Ms. McGurk, that conservation easement is to the rear of the property, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, do we need to mark this? I don't know if,
Counsel.
I would mark
Yeah.
it if since you're referring to it.
all right.
And I guess we could just continue with the rest of that?
Well, yeah, if you want, mark it as, I think our last, let me just see.
I don't know what you're up to.
Yeah, let me just look at my notes real quickly. Maybe we'll just take a number further down the road here. Maybe we'll say A10. I don't have 10 exhibits, but just to play it safe.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
A10 is an aerial photo.
And that's an image of the front of 12 Yosemite Court.
We'll call this 11.
That's fine.
That is the rear yard, showing the conservation easement. That is the rear yard looking east. That is the east side of the dwelling, looking to the rear, to the south, the wooded area. That's the existing deck that's going to be removed, and that's looking west. And again, you can see the tree line. And that is looking north across the street. That's fine. And then the next one is just the cul-de-sac, the roadway, showing the houses on the street. So the project advances several purposes of the municipal land use law, including Goal A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. This is a permitted use, and the size and appearance of the proposed addition would fit in with the character of the neighborhood. The appearance of the dwelling will remain the same, since the addition cannot be seen from the front or rear of the property. It is also buffered from the sides by landscaping and is a considerable distance from the side yard property lines. Goal E, to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhoods, communities, and regions, and preservation of the environment. The existing single-family dwelling is a permitted use which will remain at the appropriate density. The proposed development also meets C2 hardship balancing analysis. Do the benefits of the proposed use outweigh any detriments associated with the requested bulk variance for the landscape area ratio? Yes, the proposed addition would not have a substantial impact on the overall landscaping. The proposed 7.76 is still a substantial portion of the property, and the wooded area and to the rear will remain intact. For the D4 variance, what must be shown is that the floor area ratio is consistent with the intent and purpose of the master plan and the land development ordinance. Carries out a general purpose of zoning, especially promotion of the general welfare, and the site will accommodate problems associated with having a floor area ratio that is higher than what is permitted by the ordinance, and will not result in substantial detriment to the public good, and won't impair the intent and purpose of the ordinance and master plan. This is a permitted use within the R20 zoning district. It is improving the functionality of the dwelling and living space. The addition can be accommodated on the property since all of the setbacks are being met or exceeded. It is consistent with the purpose of the master plan since it promotes the general welfare, which in this case is a sense of community. An existing bedroom is being converted into an open plan common gathering loft, which will enhance the dwelling not only for the family, but their friends in the neighborhood and the area. It is my professional opinion that the variances can be granted without substantial detriment, and the benefits of this application outweigh any negative impacts to the zone. The adjacent dwellings are not being impacted since the required setbacks to the adjacent properties are being exceeded. There is no substantial detriment to the public good, and the variances can be reconciled with and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone. The municipal land use law would be advanced by the proposed deviation from the zoning ordinance requirements, and the benefits substantially outweigh any detriment. That's all I have.
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Swan?
So, I know I wasn't there for the initial application or initial hearing, but I know there were some concerns regarding the size of the house.
I'm sorry, what
And
was that?
I know that there were some concerns regarding the size of the house. Have you looked at the houses in the neighborhood? Because the reason I ask is this development, Match Barnex Estate, was created as a part of a general development plan and had alternative design standards, which meant that the homes in this development were allowed to be slightly larger than the underlying zoning to begin with. So have you looked at, because I know in my memo there was an analysis of the FARs of the homes in the neighborhood, and have you gone ahead and done any further research to see where it lies? Because the question here is twofold, right? Typically, when you ask for a variance, you try to justify based on the positive and the negative criteria. In this case, I agree with you that the addition is to the rear side, it's not visible. But then the bigger question here is you are already very close to the conservation easement. Now with the proposed development, you are building up to the conservation line. So which means the minute you step out of the house, you're actually within the conservation easement, and there is no backyard left. in the recent, and this is an older development, but in the recent ones that we have approved, we require that a split rail fence be put in along the conservation line. There are signs because, people go ahead and start mowing lawns in conservation easements. We don't want that. So, should the board act favorably, they're going to ask you to put that fence as part of the approval. And if that happens, you're not left with any backyard. You cannot even step out of the deck without stepping on to the conservation easement. Was there a thought given to shrinking the size? Because A, the size of the house is significantly larger than the homes in the neighborhood. Two, you're not left with a usable rear yard. So, my comment in question is quite loaded, and I want you to explain it to the board how it is going to work, because to me, I think between the two meetings, I would have expected some revisions to the plans or shrinking of the size so that there is some usable space. Right now, the plot plan shows there is no space between the steps and the conservation easement line.
Well, Ms. Sawan, at the last meeting, there were certain conditions that were imposed. I don't know if you've had the benefit of reading the transcript, all right? But we did agree that there would be signage posted, that obviously we could not encroach into that conservation easement, and that was one of the discussions we had at the last meeting. The addition itself is fairly modest in terms of the width, and it's only going back, was it about
17 feet?
17 feet. And they're also putting a new deck in, which essentially is their backyard. Yeah, so, this was discussed at the last meeting. In terms of the FAR analysis, Mr. Chang also provided testimony at the last hearing that the FAR of some of these other houses were of similar size. So, although it's being increased from 0.17 to 0.21, I would agree with Ms. McGurk's analysis that certainly the site can accommodate this. This is a house that Dr. Hussein has lived in for quite some time now. The reason he's doing the addition was also testified to at the last hearing. Obviously, he's got his teenage daughters that need more space. He also has parents who potentially could be residing with them in the future. So they've had a compromised backyard forever because of the conservation easement, which of course they haven't encroached on. So I know a lot of this was testified to at the last hearing.
The problem I have with it is not, in the past, the board has seen many other applications where people have come in who have families where they want to, house their senior parents, or they need additional room. But in this case, the extension is literally abutting the conservation easement. If you looked at the right side of the house, the steps directly, so the last step you get off, you're in the conservation easement. If you're putting a fence, you're really stepping onto the conservation easement. I would ideally like to see that the building is pushed back at least 3 to 5 feet so that there is some room for you to walk around. Right now, there is none.
Okay. I understand your analysis, Ms. Sawan, and I guess we can take that under advisement. I'm not sure how the board feels about that, but certainly, we can consider a possible redesign of this expansion.
My concern is that there is no space at the back to even walk around.
Vina, your microphone.
There is no space behind to even step on, and once the fence is put in, you have nowhere to go. And we have had issues in the past where fences come out, people start mowing, start using that space. So at least I would want to see some sort of setback from the conservation easement. I understand the reason to expand the house, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to compromise on having access or giving access to the conservation easement.
We did speak about that, and one thing that was brought to light, which I didn't realize, is that the conservation easement is part of the property.
Yes,
in total. Although it can't be used, it's part of the property.
Yes, and that is quite typical in the
Yeah.
older GDPs that were approved. And for example, the K. Hovnanian homes that have been recently built, because we have been having these issues, now we are taking up to the developer to make sure that they put in the fence and put in the signage so that the homeowners visually also know that that is their limit. So the lot area is larger, but that's not the usable space. So because easement encroachments have been an issue in the past, so I think to avoid those type of concerns, I would ideally recommend that the applicant revisit the design and give us some setback from the conservation easement.
Well, I believe there was 4 foot,
yeah.
I think there's a total of, there's only 4 foot. And I think one of the board members brought it up, I don't remember who, without seeing the transcript, but how close that would be once the deck is in. I don't know on the build-out if you could slide in a little bit. And what's the width, 18?
18.
I'm sorry, yeah, the depth.
The depth is
16?
16, it's 16.
16
It's 16.
So 16 on the depth. I don't know what that does to the rooms and the interior.
And I don't see the deck. I see that your plan says that the existing deck is being removed and you're expanding the building onto the existing deck area, and then there is a proposed patio.
Yeah, the patio is the deck. And you know, Mr. Sullivan has brought up a good point. The conservation easement is part of our property. Nobody else is allowed to utilize that area that's encumbered by that conservation easement, since my client does own that property. That conservation, the depth of that conservation easement is probably about 60 or 70 feet at the rear of their property. We did agree at the last hearing that we would put up a sign acknowledging the fact that there was a conservation easement. I think there was a question raised by a board member about a fence, but I think we decided that a fence just wasn't really particularly applicable here because, first of all, they have the use of that land. They just obviously can't do anything within that conservation easement. They're not even allowed to cut down a tree, but I would suggest that if there's an open area, they could certainly sit there. I mean, that is their property, but they are prevented from doing any improvements in that conservation easement area. So I think there was discussion at the last hearing about a fence, and I think the board said, well, that really doesn't make sense, and they had recommended that there be some signage posted there, that this is an area of a conservation easement, and obviously that would be some permanent signage as well when they go to sell this property, perhaps in the future.
Mr. Sachs, by any chance you have the architect here?
I do not have the architect here,
So
no.
maybe you can answer the question.
Sure.
If you look at the architectural floor plan, right, there is a pantry right next to the sunroom, and it looks like there's a stove and a sink in the pantry.
Where?
Well, the pantry, if I'm looking at the plan, and obviously I'm not an architect, but I could see where the addition includes a new pantry being constructed.
Correct, and the pantry, inside the pantry, do you see a stove and a sink?
Well, there's a bump out there, yeah.
Which is odd.
I
Like
don't-
a sink and a stove in a pantry. And especially because now the sunroom also has access outside, right? Should the board act favorably, I would also recommend that no space would be rented or used by any other outsiders, just as a normal condition of approval. And
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
sure
this
you would
is
do
a
that.
single-family house. It's going to remain as a single-family house, and we have no intention of making it a two-family house. Does not have two kitchens. It does not have two furnaces, two air conditioning units. It's a single-family home. But whatever condition you would like to impose, Ms. Salant, would be fine.
We did speak about the fact that they also wind up with an extra 770 feet above grade, but as a basement. It's unusable, but the height in there, but it doesn't, obviously it doesn't count to the FAR.
Correct.
We understand that, but the concern, and it was brought up, that a condition would be that that's not going to
We
turn
did.
into
Right.
further rooms or usable rooms or living space.
Correct.
And I think the doctor, I thought, said it was going to be, or someone said it was going to be used for storage.
Correct.
I was only curious because I've never seen a stove and a sink in a pantry, so I was just.
Is that a
curious.
mudroom or is that a pantry?
It says it's a pantry.
I don't have my copy.
That's what. So maybe, and one of the conditions should be that the stove and the sink should come out of the pantry.
We can remove the sink in the pantry. We can remove the sink in the pantry. Yeah.
But they do have sinks and
Well,
I
hold on.
understand. I understand.
You can't speak from the audience.
That's all right.
I understand it's your client, but you
Yes.
have to come forward and speak.
That's all right. I can indicate for the record.
Okay.
If there's a burning desire to remove the sink in the pantry, we're certainly willing to do that.
Is that the sink and
It's the
stove?
stove that is the issue, not the sink.
Stove top?
That's fine also.
So remove both.
You don't have to have the full stove, you just have stove top. That's a stove top.
That's all on my end.
Some people
That's
use
all?
it in the
That's all
pantry.
on my end.
Okay. Let me see if there's any questions from the witness.
Sure.
I'll start on my left. Mr. Scott.
You need the microphone.
Need the
You
mic,
Oh, we got to pass that.
Or pass the gooseneck, whichever is easier.
Probably this.
Whisper down the lane.
It's good.
No, it's not on.
Mr. Wan, did you have the opportunity to visit the home?
Not the home. I don't.
Do you know of anybody from the zoning office that visited the home?
No, so usually what I do is I go through the.
Vina, hold on.
Now we got to do this.
Hey, girl, don't worry.
So basically, nobody from the zoning office had actually went to the home, the applicant's home, to see the.
We don't.
No, you have not.
Okay, my
So we're
God, this is
working
scary.
completely on the numbers and forecast of what
That is
the
correct.
attorneys bring.
That is correct. My God.
You have anything to say, Gary?
Yeah, I just have a concern, like, Ms. Swan said, this is, although it is their property, I've lived this circumstance where a property next to me put up signs for, conserve, and it was mowed several times until I actually had to, say to someone, I'm going to call the DEP on you. So I understand you own it, but it'd probably be better if you shrunk it, because it's a huge addition. Huge. It's 1,540 square feet, whether you're using half of it for storage or not. I mean, a couple feet would be great, so that when they step out, they're not in the, in the conservative use area.
I think. Hello? Is it on? No, I think I'm confused. I thought the 1,570 feet was a addition, the first floor, the second floor, and then a basement, which wasn't considered in the square footage, correct? Okay, so then it's not 1,570, it's 1,570 living space. Okay, thank you.
Counsel, you have anything?
No.
I don't have anything for the witness. I mean, she's been factual. I understand that. Again, the only question we did have the last time is that you're literally going to have a shorter distance than from me to you. And I'm assuming that the homeowner knows that. It's their property, I get that.
Mr. Chairman, if the sentiment is that we could relook at a reduction in some of the square footage here, understanding 16 feet is roughly from me maybe to that back wall. All right, maybe a little bit further, maybe 12 feet, from where I'm sitting to that back wall. I don't know how much more I can shrink this house. Right now, I really don't have a very usable backyard in this backyard. But that's obviously a decision that Dr. Hussein made when he purchased the house. However, I think the board does need to recognize the fact that the conservation easement can be utilized by my client. They are not restricted from using that area for recreational purposes. What they are restricted from doing is cutting down trees. What they are restricted from doing is placing any type of structure in that area, which we're not doing. But certainly, Mr. Chairman, if the sentiment of the board is to revisit this and look to see if we can reduce it, then we're certainly willing to do that.
What's the width of the deck? Could we shrink that to give them a little bit more space or is that what they're really using, the deck?
Well, I think the deck is used to square, I think it's squaring off the addition, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so there wouldn't be any savings there.
No, I agree.
I have a question.
Ms. Testaverde, go ahead.
For what reason, would professionals or somebody go into a conservation easement? Is it nature or something, like professionals? For what reason? My question is for access. Would they have access to that then, at this particular location, if there's no room?
Oh, to encroach into the conservation easement? Probably not.
Mr. Sachs, actually, when you look at the architectural plan, right, and compare it with the plot plan, it appears that the patio actually encroaches into the conservation easement. It literally juts out and extends beyond the building line.
Well, I'm looking at I have the architectural plan here. Let me just look at the site plan real quick. No, I don't see, I see the conservation easement. I think it's right, I don't see it encroaching, Mr. Wan. I'm looking at a smaller version of it, but,
You're looking at the smaller version
Yeah.
of
yeah.
the.
No, not of that, I'm looking at the site plan.
No, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
site plan doesn't show it, but if you look at the architectural plan,
Right.
the patio has a bump out. In the plot plan or the site plan, it kind of squares off. But when you look at the corner there's a bump out. So when you place it on the site, it will encroach into the conservation easement.
Okay, I couldn't discern that from looking at this, but I guess that's something I'll have to have the
Yeah.
professional look at. Okay.
It's saying 16 feet. The max depth is still 16 feet. It might not accurately show the bump out on here, but it's saying 16 feet.
Right.
I mean, just a suggestion. I know that you want to go back and look at it, but I think having at least a 3 feet clear distance from the conservation easement might be helpful, so that you're not stepping onto the easement when you get off the steps. Something to look at.
Well, we have 4?
I thought we
Yeah.
have several feet already.
I don't think so. I'm looking at the plot
I
plan.
know we said it was 4 or went on the record, but I don't have a site plan.
The plan doesn't show that.
Okay.
So maybe the plan needs to be revised to show that then.
Okay.
Because based on the plan, I'm looking at the plan and there's not even a feet there. It touches the easement.
Mr. Chairman, I think what I'll do at this point is I would not request that the board take action on this evening. I'm going to speak to the client and see if there's a possibility of reducing the footprint on this slightly. Obviously, I can't reduce it too much, but we might be able to reduce it slightly, and I will speak to the engineer and have the engineer and the architect confirm exactly where the conservation easement is.
I'll be happy to meet with the professionals before the next meeting, and we can resolve this before it comes to the board.
Okay.
Right, I would hope that that would be the case. While you're here, Mr. Sachs, as far as the memo that was authored on July 15 from Ms. Sawant, is there any other issues on here? And I would say, going from page 4 of 5 and 5 of 5, that the applicant either cannot perform or will not perform, or are we going to agree on all that?
Yeah, let me just,
Sure.
the general comments. Well, comment D talks about a revision on the plans regarding the
Right.
concert, that we would agree to.
Right.
I think we confirmed at the last hearing about the sump pump. We're not below grade. It's a walkout basement.
We did.
All right, and paragraph F on general comments 3 is fine. We have no issue with that. G is fine. H is fine. No trees are being removed to address paragraph I. So generally, we don't have any objection.
So we've cleared up all the other issues?
Yes.
You want to re-examine then if there's an ability to, I guess, shorten the depth out from the house?
Yep.
To provide just a smaller, a little bit more buffer than if it is 4 foot or it's not 4 foot, or we can do, the professionals can agree on something like that, and we can come back and have that information?
Yep. That's fine.
Board members, on my left, any questions that you want to present to the applicant or the applicant's attorney at this point? Because we're probably only coming back once more, let's say.
I'm hoping. Mr. Chairman, while we're here, I don't know if there's anyone from the public, but maybe we can...
I'm going to check on that. I just want to get to the panel first. And Counselor, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
I have nothing further.
All right. And on my right, Ms. Testaverde, Mrs. Andrews, still? Okay. Ms. Sawant? Okay, Mr. Hallahan? Okay, let me go to, I'll open up a public portion on this. This is matter 41-2024Z. The physical location is 12 Yosemite Court. This is a 2-story addition to the rear of the house. Anyone here in the courtroom wish to be heard, please raise your hand or stand. Absent anyone doing either, I'll close the public portion. Do we have a date for this?
November 6th?
Is there any way of doing that any sooner? I...
That was doing it sooner.
If you can agree in a professional meeting, how much time are you going to need when you come back to present us? Another 15 minutes?
Yeah, less.
I'm sorry? Can we try for the next one? Because we try to meet them as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And it will be like a 5-minute thing.
Right. We can have all this ironed out. I
Okay,
hope.
so 10:16.
10:16? Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Sachs, that's agreeable?
Yes.
He's waiving any right to, sorry, extension of time.
I can't hear you.
Extension of time is all covered.
Yeah.
Are we within it? Yes, because it's agreeing.
I don't know. I'm gonna worry about
Mm-hmm. There's agreement to extension of time, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, so October 16th?
October 16th. I'll put you on first if you can try and,
All right,
if we can all get this settled and wrap it up in a nice little package, the board can deliberate and we can move forward on it.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you again, and Ms. McGregor,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And thank you to the owners for being here this evening. On that matter, the matter will be rescheduled October 16th. There'll be no further notice if you're not watching at home because we're not on the TV tonight. But all right, we're going to move on. I'd ask you to swear in Mr. Hallahan and Mr. Dargy, who are now on the dais.
You both
Please.
raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you both. All right. Okay, 49-2024Z, Outfront Media LLC. This is block 19013. You need to record this, is that what I'm saying now? I'll wait.
Yeah, Chairman, if we could
I
wait.
forgot that
No problem.
there was a switch on the stenographers.
They'll let you sit to be sworn in. Your back hurts.
Tina, you good? Counselor, you ready?
Yes.
This is matter 49-2024Z, Outdoor Media LLC. This is block 19013, lot 6.11, physical location 1449, Highway 18, Old Bridge. This is for a multi-message sign. The applicant seeking approval to construct and operate a monopole multi-message sign consisting of two 25 by 2 by 18 by 9 faces totaling 952 square feet with an overall height above grade of 25 feet. This is a continuance. Matthew Weiss, Esquire, representing the applicant, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Matthew Weiss, Price Me, Shulman, and Darminio, on behalf of the applicant. Again, this is for block 19013, lot 6.11. It's the Dunkin' Donuts on Route 18, just to orient the board. Of course, we're here for a billboard, not a Dunkin' Donuts. It would be on the same property. We were here back in May, on May 1st, and the board heard from two witnesses at that time. It was John Antal, the general manager of Outfront Media's New Jersey office, who spoke about the operation of the sign. He went over an aerial view of the location. Sorry, he went over the NJDOT permit, some simulations we had prepared, as well as the public service protocols. As the board may remember, Outfront offers all of its prospective municipal partners time on the sign as a public service. That would be, I believe it would be time as available whenever there is time available on the sign if the township chose to use it. You also heard from our engineer, Bill Vogt, from L2A, who spoke about the more technical aspects of the sign. He went over the site plan, as well as how the lighting would work, and discussed a little bit more about those simulations, just to run through that for the board. Tonight, we're going to finish up with our planning expert, George Williams, who will, of course, run through the proofs for the D3 conditional use variance that we are requesting. So, Chairman, if we can have Mr. Williams sworn, I would like to.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I most certainly do.
And can you state your name?
Certainly. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is George Weedle Williams, Williams with an S.
Board members, just before George starts, right, a little story. What you're going to hear is an experience. As I've assisted George more than 10 years ago on numerous board hearings, and he's one of the best orators. I would actually sit in the audience just to listen to him. So welcome, George, to Old Bridge.
No pressure.
Chairman, I think that works as his qualifications. to be a
Hopefully, just put
professional
on the record while you're testifying.
Listen, I have to say this, he has trained me well too.
You're a professional planner, sir, correct?
That's correct.
And your licenses are current in this state.
That is also correct.
We'll take the expertise from Ms. Sawant, so I'll certainly agree with her. I
Thank
believe
you.
you've testified
Thank you.
before this board. I've seen you before.
Yes.
And you are a good orator, matter of
Thank
fact.
you.
Look at this,
No
compliments
pressure.
all around.
Yeah, that's that.
That's where the compliments stop.
I knew it.
Before we start with Mr. Williams, I just do want to clean up one thing from the last hearing. Outfront did get an updated NJDOT permit. It is dated July 15th of this year. I'm going to mark that as A7. Mr. Arve, if you could just hand that out to everybody. This, we don't need to talk about this. This would just be so that we have the proper updated permit on the record.
Certainly.
Okay. Mr. Williams, we don't need to go over your experience, so why don't you jump right into what work you completed here in preparation for your testimony?
Certainly, and I want to thank Ms. Sawant for generous compliments and thank the board for this opportunity. So we approach this application the way we approach all of our land use applications, and that begins with a review of the municipal land use documents, in this case, your reexamination report and the land development ordinance, and all of that in the context of the municipal land use law. Also reviewed, of course, the site plan and site plan application that are before you this evening. I and my staff have visited the site on more than one occasion. On at least one of those occasions, I was part of the team that conducted a crane test, and I'll talk about that a bit further down the road. Also had a chance to review some of the case law and planning literature in support of the applications we're seeking, the application of release we're seeking this evening, and I did look at the ordinance amendments that impact this particular land use. I also attended the previous hearings for this matter, and last but not least, certainly not least, I did review my esteemed colleague's review memo dated May 1st.
Mr. Williams, before we move on, just because we haven't been here in 4.5 months, you mentioned the crane test. Would you mind briefly explaining to the board what that is, just to refresh the recollection?
Certainly, and I will package this with part of my editorial about the applicant. Outfront Media is very conscientious about their siting of billboards and their site layout. As part of their site layout methodology, they conduct a crane test for almost every site that they are seeking approval for. That crane test, as Mr. Vogt may have testified, is an opportunity for the team to assemble on the site using a boom truck or a crane. They lift a board with bright striping to the height that the proposed billboard will be designed. Then the team photo surveys and measures the site itself. We walk and drive the surrounding area. The intent is to make sure that there are no negative visual impacts from the site based on a crane test. So the crane test allows us to walk up and down the highway, drive to neighboring areas, and see if we are able to see the board that's being hung. It also informs the development of the simulations that were part of the package that was submitted to the board by the applicant's representative, Mr. Antal. Again, working with Outfront Media for a number of years on a number of applications, that's part of their commitment to making sure that they can adjust the site layout and the sign design such that there's no impact, no negative impact, no visual impact on surrounding non-commercial development.
And just to reiterate something you said there, you go around the nearby areas as the planner and look for that board that's being raised to the height to see basically, if I'm understanding correctly, whether from the surrounding residential areas, if any, you would theoretically be able to see the sign.
That's correct.
And if there were concerns, you would voice that to Outfront.
Correct. And one of the good things about working with Outfront is they actually listen to their planner. So we get to weigh in at the very beginning of the planning process, and then the team, based on those observations, may make adjustments to the design of the sign or the site layout.
Great. So why don't you give us your planning overview for this application?
Certainly. So you heard a considerable amount of testimony from the previous witnesses, Mr. Antal for representing Outfront Media, and Mr. Vogt, our civil engineer. So I'll try not to be redundant. What I would like to do is state a few foundational facts that you've heard from Mr. Vogt already, some broad planning observations and principles, and then go in directly to the requisite statutory proofs in support of the release we're seeking this evening. So for the record, and you heard this from our counsel, the property is commonly referred to as 1449 Route 18 or the Dunkin' Donuts site. It's identified in your municipal tax records as block number 19013, lot number 6.11, and is located on the western side of Route 18. It is in your Community Commercial Zone, or CC Zone District. The site acreage is approximately 0.82, and the site is developed with the one-story Dunkin' Donuts drive-through facility. The chairman already captured the project description, which was shared also by Mr. Vogt, so I won't go into that, just to highlight that the height of the proposed sign is 37.5 feet. In terms of the zoning analysis, again, located in the CC district, as I read your code, the purpose of the CC zone district is to establish areas which will provide a greater variety of retail, business, and personal services for an area embracing several neighborhoods. Parenthetically, I would just add that the intent and purpose of an outdoor advertising sign is to promote commerce, and so it is appropriate, in my opinion, that the municipality decided to create conditional use for billboards in this zone. As per section 250.41.z of your code, again, billboards or outdoor advertising signs are permitted conditional uses, and that section provides the list of conditional use standards. I will not go through all of them unless the board needs me to, only because Mr. Vogt did recite those standards in his testimony, and your board planner captured them as well. I would just opine that we, in my opinion, only deviate from one of those 14 standards. That's number 6, which requires that the billboard not be located closer than 500 feet from a residential zone district. You heard from Mr. Vogt. You'll hear me repeat a couple of times. We are approximately 230 feet from the residential zone district line. In terms of the relief sought, again, that's section 250-41.z.6, and that is the conditional use standard that we do not meet. There are a number of pre-existing non-conforming bulk and area deviations. I would submit to the board, we don't exacerbate any of those. We're not making any changes to those. And so I'll talk a bit more about the appropriate context for board deliberation about those in a few moments. I mentioned in my introductory comments that I would begin with kind of a high-level planning observation, so let me do that now. I would submit to this board that as a planner that does work with Outfront Media quite often, it is always a pleasure to find a municipality that has actual standards for billboards as opposed to not including them in zone districts. It is just considered a better planning process to provide appropriate standards for legitimate land uses such as a outdoor advertising sign. The project is located in Route 18, which is a highly trafficked highway with use for this county, and is, in my opinion as a planner, and I assume your governing body agrees, an appropriate environment for this particular land use. You've heard testimony already from Mr. Vogt about the design of the sign, monopole with a V-shaped sign face. I would just like to go into some of the planning considerations before I get to the proofs, and I do have one exhibit. From a broad perspective, this application, again, is for a D3 conditional use variance, and so it's important to understand the legislative intent, and I may be repeating that a couple of times, but in my professional opinion, the legislative intent of the municipality is to permit this land use in this area and 2 other zone districts, hence the D3. And as this board knows, jurisdiction is with the zoning board for D3 variances whenever the applicant does not meet one or all of the conditional use standards. In New Jersey land use law, legislative intent refers to the overarching purpose and goals that the governing body aimed to achieve. Again, they aim to achieve the permission of this land use in the CC zone district. Courts and agencies typically look at legislative intent in terms of the plain language of the code, legislative history, and the overall legislative scheme. Again, the overall scheme in this case being the permission of outdoor advertising signs along this highway in this particular zone district. There are a couple of court cases I'm going to refer to, one, and council may refer to it again later. It's Wilson X. Rel. Manzano v. City of Jersey City. And what's interesting about that court case is it does opine about legislative intent. Specifically, it suggests that the enactment of a code is part of a larger statutory framework and should not be read in isolation, but in relation to other constituent parts so that the sensible meaning may be given to the whole of the legislative scheme. That word scheme is going to be a common theme in my testimony when I get to the proofs. In fact, it's suggested that we must be guided by the legislative objectives sought to be achieved. Hopefully I'll make this clearer as I progress, but I'm laying the groundwork hopefully for the rationale for our deviation from that one conditional use standard in your code. The plain language in this matter, the code was specifically drafted to permit billboards as conditional uses, meaning that they were an appropriate use for this zone district. In terms of the legislative history, we looked at the master plan. We also looked at the amendments that I referred to in my introductory comments, 2010-29, which created the conditional use billboards, and 2010-32, which spoke to the fees associated with billboard applications. While the language was clear about the use, there was not a whole lot of rationale for the conditional use standards, particularly the one that we will deviate from, and that's the 500 foot. My assumption as a planner is that that distance was selected to either minimize or eliminate any visual impact of billboards on non-commercial land uses, or specifically residential land uses in this case. What's interesting is the code permits a 1,000 square foot billboard sign face at 500 feet. What we're proposing, and you heard this from Mr. Vogt, is a much smaller sign face at a 230 foot distance. The overall legislative scheme. Again, the code was clearly crafted to permit billboards in certain zone districts, and you heard Mr. Vogt testify what those 3 zone districts are. I'm going to repeat them momentarily, and provide specific conditional use standards for that use. It's a bit counterintuitive, and again, I will come back to this, that the code would include a standard that would preclude the location of this land use in the selected zone district. More on that when I speak directly to the proofs for the D3. In terms of the impact, generally speaking, of this proposed use on the surrounding area, you heard plenty of testimony from Mr. Antal about being context sensitive in the design of the sign and the site layout. That testimony was buttressed by our civil engineer, Mr. Vogt, and it's our opinion, based on the crane test and the site plan before you, that there will be no negative impact on the surrounding area for a variety of reasons. First of all, again, the crane test, we use the crane test to identify where there might be sight lines that would be obtrusive or negative to non-commercial zone districts, and found none. We noticed that many of the residences on, if not all, the highway have significant setbacks such that their view of our site is extremely limited, and then that limitation is further buttressed by the fact that there are dense tree lines in this section of the highway, such that there'd be no view or extremely limited view of the proposed billboard at this site location. In terms of the benefits of the billboard, I won't belabor this. You heard this from Mr. Antal in particular. The public benefit package includes an opportunity for the municipality to use turns on this sign for the promotion of activities and events that are important to this municipality. There are general benefits to the public, such as the public service announcements, such as Amber Alerts, natural weather occurrences, et cetera, that can be displayed on the modern technology or LED sign. Again, this LED format allows the billboard, the applicant, to add more local and regional advertisement on the sign because they have the ability to do the remote copy change and more frequent changes. Last but not least, the LED format, the more contemporary format for billboards, allows for greater readability, legibility, and conspicuity, which is a safety bonus or benefit to passing motorists who can easily read and understand the copy that's on the sign. Last but not least, the LED format allows for remote copy change, which results in fewer trips to the site. Again, also a benefit to the public in general, as opposed just to the applicant. Based on all my review and analysis, there's sufficient proofs in support of the D3 relief we're seeking. And at this point, what I'd like to do is offer a very simple exhibit. Excuse me.
Yes, so I'm going to pre-mark this as A8. Mr. Arve, if you could just hand out our other exhibit. You do. Okay, so Mr. Williams, I'm going to hand you what I pre-marked as A8. Can you please describe for the board what they're looking at?
Yes, Commissioners, this is a capture of your zoning map with a couple of labels added to.
I apologize. On the screen, you can see the label. I just realized, unfortunately, the label of where the property is did not print. So please refer to the screen, and I will, when we submit the actual exhibit, make sure that's fixed. I apologize, Chairman.
So a small but important detail.
Probably the most important detail. That is my mistake, and I'm very sorry about that. But again, if you look at the screen, you can see the label, and Mr. Williams will orient you as well.
Certainly. So, Commissioners, if you look at the screen, you'll see to the bottom left of the exhibit a label in the form of a text box with the site identification in the text box pointing to the zone district, that district again being the CC district. The intent of this exhibit is really straightforward and simple. It is to demonstrate that this is the only CC district along this section of the highway, or this highway, excuse me. That is significant as I move into the requisite statutory proofs for our D3 variance relief, because, again, the legislative intent is that billboards or outdoor advertising signs be permitted in the CC district. This is the only CC district on the highway, and therefore it's important to realize that the location of this billboard, with all the distance requirements as part of the conditional use standards, is limited to this one area.
Before we move on from this, Mr. Williams, two quick questions about this. So one, you said, of course, this is in the CC district along the highway. We're talking about Route 18 here, right?
Yes.
And Route 18, billboards are allowed in the CC district, specifically along Route 18 under the code.
That is correct.
The other thing is there are other zone districts in which billboards are allowed under Route 18.
Yes.
Are any of those districts present along Route 18, to your knowledge?
No, and if you look at the site plan, that becomes evident. For the record, the SDI, or Special Development, and OG office zones are the other districts that permit outdoor advertising.
But again, those are not along Route 18 to your knowledge?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. So why don't we get into the proofs?
Okay. As this board knows, the D3 variance, I may have mentioned this in my introductory comments, is required whenever a permitted conditional use such as billboards does not meet each one or more of the conditional use standards associated with that land use. The jurisdiction, once that occurs, is strictly with this board, as you know, and there is a landmark court case, which provides guidance for your deliberation and consideration of a D3 variance. As you know, that's the Coventry Square v. Westwood case, which suggests that the proofs are slightly lightened compared to a D1 use variance where the applicant has to meet the Medici standard and show particular suitability, et cetera. Instead, under Coventry, the court found that even when the application does not comport with the requisite conditions, it is nonetheless essentially compatible with the zone. Again, going back to the legislative intent. The governing body has presumptively assumed, or determined rather, that this use is appropriate and compatible with the CC district here in Old Bridge. Rather, the focus of the board must be on a deviation from the specific standard or standards in the context of the total proposed development, and that is where I believe Mr. Vogt was going with his testimony about the proportionality of our sign dimensions and the distance from the residential zone district. Finally, in terms of a D3 variance relief, the standard is more akin to a bulk and area deviation or a C variance, because again, the use is presumed to be appropriate. It's just whether the site can accommodate the deviation from the strict application of your code for that conditional use standard. Again, there are approximately 14 conditional use standards. The one that we do not meet, in my opinion, is 250-41.Z.6. Again, that's the 500-foot distance from the residential zone district line, and we come in at 230 feet in distance from that line. In terms of the proofs, again, based on Coventry with a slightly lightened standard, the board may consider whether there are particular features of the site, and in this case the sign, that ameliorate or entirely offset the failure to meet the conditional use standard at question. I mentioned already through the exhibit, this is the only location along the highway that would permit the distance, and so I'll speak directly to the distance standard now. Again, the presumed intent is that the use is appropriate for this district. My presumption is that the 500-foot distance is to protect the non-commercial land development along Route 18 from any negative visual impacts from the sign. Our opinion is that the site can accommodate this deviation from the strict application of your code for a couple of reasons. First, the sign orientation. You've already heard a fair amount of testimony from Mr. Vogt and Mr. Antall about the orientation of these signs, which was deliberately designed so as not to have any negative impact on the surrounding land development. Also, to make sure that the orientation was specifically targeted to vehicular traffic along this highway. Again, the land development pattern, as I mentioned earlier, any non-commercial development along the highway evidences significant front yard setbacks, such that the residences are removed significantly from the highway and their view shed is significantly reduced and or eliminated because of their deep setbacks and because of the tree line and buffering and screening. Now, Mr. Vogt spoke about his calculus for the sign to discuss proportionality. His intent was not to suggest we don't need a D3 variance, but rather to say if the intent of the 500-foot distance was to soften views of the billboard or make sure there are no negative impacts, when he did his calculations at the proposed square footage of our sign face and the distance, we would argue that the intent of that distance regulation is still met, meaning that given the size of our sign face and its distance, which is less than the required 500 feet, you still would not have a negative impact on the surrounding land development pattern, which we assume is the intent of that section of the code.
Before we move on to the negative criteria, the code, if I'm correct, requires that billboards be between 10 feet setback from the highway and 100 feet setback from the highway, correct?
Correct.
So even if theoretically the billboard were 100 feet setback from the highway, would it meet that 500-foot requirement?
No.
And is there anywhere to your knowledge in the CC zone or any other allowable zone along Route 18 where that could work?
No, and my opinion is informed in part by our crane test observations and in consultation with Mr. Vogt, our civil engineer.
So what I'm getting from this, correct me if you disagree with me, is that the governing body has kind of put the zoning board in an odd position here, because they don't actually, billboards are supposed to be allowed conditionally along Route 18, but there is no lot on which billboards can actually be allowed without a D3 variance on Route 18. Is that correct?
Yes, in my opinion, having reviewed the code, that is correct. And it seemed, I think I mentioned this in my introductory comments, it's almost counterintuitive that if the legislative intent is to permit billboards in the CC district on this highway, but have a conditional use standard that would negate the possibility of locating them in the CC district, that could not have been, in my opinion, the true intent of the code. But that brings us to where we are today. It's not a decision that the board made. It's a part of the function of the governing body creating this code. And again, my opinion would be it could not have been intended to create a standard that would not make it possible to have a permitted use.
So one way to address that, in your opinion, would be to look at the math that you did and that Mr. Vogt did, not to say that we don't need this D3 variance, but to think about it in this flexible way, we could still meet the intent of the code while, not actually, despite the fact that we do violate it by letter.
Yes, and I'm arithmetically challenged, but I did review the calculus with Mr. Vogt at length. And in my opinion, again, going back to the proportionality, we would not violate the spirit of the code, which is intended to limit views of the sign from the residential zone district. Again, because while we don't meet the 500-foot standard, we are vastly reducing the size of the sign from that 1,000 square foot to the 380 square foot.
And just to get ahead of a question that I anticipate, at our last hearing, you heard Ms. Sawan ask whether we're of the opinion that these are connected, connected code sections, and that the 500-foot is attached to the 1,000-foot. Her opinion, of course, was that it was not directly attached to the other, but that's not what we're saying, correct? It's just we're addressing the intent of the entire code.
Correct. The intent of the code, and if we go back to the Wilson court case and my preamble about legislative intent, looking at the code in its entirety as opposed to that standard in isolation, and then following up with the Coventry standard, that can the site accommodate that deviation? In my opinion, for all the reasons I've mentioned, the site can accommodate that deviation of 500 foot.
So just to wrap up this little sidebar, what you're saying is that assuming that because the code allows this, a 1,000 square foot billboard 500 feet away from residential zones would be okay. A 380 square foot billboard, we're not naming a number, but again, just doing the math, about 200 feet away, would theoretically be okay. Again, just looking at the intent, not saying that that means we don't need the variance.
Correct. We definitely need the variance because we don't meet the strict application of that conditional use standard. But in terms of proportionality, I think we meet the spirit of the code, and more importantly, the site can accommodate it for those reasons.
Great. Let's move on to the negative criteria.
Okay.
Thank you.
As this board knows, the negative criteria is a two-prong test. First prong is there's no substantial detriment to the public good. The second prong is there's no substantial impairment to the zone plan. I would submit to this board there is no substantial detriment to the public good and no substantial impairment to the zone plan, but it's important to go back to the Coventry landmark court case and remind the board that under Coventry, the requirement of the Medici standard, the enhanced burden of proof, is not required. As a planner, however, I'm always comfortable providing testimony about those two-prong tests. Again, that word substantial comes directly from the municipal land use law. In my professional opinion, if this board were to grant our relief from that section of the conditional use standards, there would be no substantial detriment to the public good for all the reasons we've mentioned. The proportionality of the sign face area in the context of the distance from the zone district line, the setback of the non-commercial land development pattern in this area significantly set back from the highway, and then the dense tree line and buffers are such that if you were to grant our relief for this permitted use in the CC zone district, there'd be no substantial detriment to the public good. I would go a step further and say, based on Outfront Media's context-sensitive design and site layout, there'd be no detriment to the public good. In terms of the second prong, again, not really required, but I would submit that after reviewing your master plan reexamination report, there would be no substantial impairment to the zone plan. In fact, the zone plan does have goals and recommendations for looking at this highway corridor to encourage greater commercial diversity and grow the economic development along the highway. That is, in fact, the purpose and intent of outdoor advertising signs, is to promote commerce, so we would advance that goal of your plan. The master plan also seeks planning for the highway corridors to make sure they're updated to ensure that they remain competitive. Again, in my opinion, outdoor advertising signs could help with that. I don't remember the percentage, but in conversations with Outfront Media, the percentage of local, regional promotion is far greater than national. So if you were to approve our application, it would certainly help promote that goal of your master plan.
Okay, let's move on to the C variances, which I think the point is going to be we don't actually need them because they're nonconformities that we're not really affecting, not just not exacerbating, but not really touching at all.
Correct. There are a number of pre-existing nonconforming deviations from your bulk and area standards. In my opinion, under the Cortesini case, where we're not exacerbating those deviations, to use the vernacular, they are kind of what they are. We're not changing any of them. In my opinion, under that court case, no additional relief would be needed for those C variances.
Thank you. Do you have anything further, Mr. Williams?
No, I think that would conclude my direct testimony, but I'm certainly available to answer questions.
Thanks, Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Sawant?
So, couple of things, right? I remember at the last meeting, there was a question from me as well as the board members. Are there any other billboards along 18 till the terminus? Have you looked into it?
That's a good question. I remember the question. I don't remember the answer. I don't have that answer handy. I want to say no.
I believe the answer is no.
I don't
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
there is any. I know Mr. Williams went in detail about the zoning, right? But the other side of the story. So in 2015, the township created the EDO zone, and it was the EDO, Economic Development Opportunity Zone. And what that did is that zone started replacing the CN zone or the commercial zones. We already created the CR, which is commercial recreation zone, because originally the township was purely suburban. There were smaller pockets of non-residential zones throughout the township, especially along the highways. There was CC, CN, and CM zone, which is commercial marine, commercial neighborhood, commercial, which promoted commercial uses, as well as OG zones, the office generals. If you look at the master plan, there was recommendation that we revisit all these smaller non-residential zones to see what can be done and how we can promote more retail type of uses. So in the past, we created the EDO zone, then we replaced the CN zone with the EDO1 zone. And the intention was to clean out the zoning map, to eventually even get rid of the CC zone and replace it with EDO1 zone. when the EDO 1 zone ordinance was written, it specifically eliminated the billboards as permitted use, as a permitted conditional use. So the intention was to prevent having billboards on these smaller non-residential zones or smaller pockets that are closer to residential zones. And if you notice in Old Bridge, the billboards that are currently existing are in the CR zone or the EDO 3 zone, where you don't have residences nearby, or you have larger lots, so that 500 feet is naturally maintained. The intention here, like the others, like Mr. Williams said, that it allowed billboards on CC on 18, which means the property would be able to have that permitted use, but at the same time, it's a contradictory policy where you have a requirement that the billboard cannot be within 500 feet. So in working with the council and in cleaning up the zoning map and the zoning ordinance, the intention is to preserve that corridor along 18, because if you look at the same zoning map, notice there is a lot of residential use, unlike in East Brunswick. If you enter East Brunswick, it's purely commercial and you have larger commercial lots. Whereas the minute you enter Old Bridge and you start going south towards Marlborough, you have a beautiful landscape, or we try to maintain that scenic route. We don't have as many commercial uses. The EDO 3 zone, that is the largest non-residential zone on Route 18, there too, I recently wrote a redevelopment plan to construct 8 warehouses, but the total was 800,000 square feet of warehousing. But we made sure that the corridor on 18 is maintained. There is no entrance from 18 into those warehouses. The entrance is from Texas Road and Marlborough Road, and then the traffic discharges on Spring Valley Road. But the frontage is well maintained. The planning board recently approved an application right next door, which is called as Oak 18 for Family Dollar, right? Dollar Tree. And even at that application, I was quite vocal about the sign being proposed, a pylon sign being proposed. So there are few things the board has to keep in perspective while looking at this application. Again, it's a D3. Although I'm giving you this background, the ordinance allows a billboard as a conditional use. So you have to keep that in mind, and I know the board is in a tough position to weigh the drawbacks. The one thing that I feel in this instance or this location is, if you look at the opposite side where the residential uses are, it's all single family homes. The homes have frontage on Marlborough, but they're the rear side where all the bedrooms are, they face 18. So they would have direct visibility to this billboard. So you have to keep that in mind as well. I don't have any further question. The one question also, maybe you have not looked into it.
Wait, sorry, I'm just gonna, can I let him address your points
Sure.
before you ask the next question? Is
Sure.
that okay? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Williams. You heard all of Ms. Swan's points. Can you just address
Yes.
them from your perspective?
Yes, and if I understood Ms. Swan's conclusionary comment, I would agree, I concur, and that's what I said in my direct testimony, that the board has inherited a code that does permit the billboards, whose legislative intent is to find billboards an appropriate land use in a zone district. And the conundrum, as Ms. Sawant mentions, is that one of the conditional use standards would almost relegate them to not being available anywhere along Route 18. In terms of the Marlboro, part of the crane test, one of the benefits of the crane test is we drove and walked the expanse of Route 18, drove back to Marlboro and walked Marlboro. And Ms. Swan is 100% correct. The houses there front on Marlboro. They have rather deep lots, but for the tree lines, they would have direct views of Dunkin' Donuts and Route 18. My supposition is that the tree line existed first and people built their homes between those tree lines and Marlboro, or the trees were planted with the intent and purpose of screening those homes in front of Marlboro from the highway in general. And they do provide a pretty dense screening and buffering.
So I think, to that point, something the board might be concerned about is the light from the billboard. Of course, you heard Mr. Voigt's testimony. Just in case the board doesn't remember, Mr. Voigt's testimony was that the board will admit no more than 0.3 foot candles over the ambient light in the area within 187 feet of the sign. Do you remember that?
I do.
So that does not actually reach any of the residences, correct?
No, and in addition, Mr. Vogt also testified that that ambient light calculation should be considered in the context of the light produced by commercial uses on the highway, along the highway, and the highway lights.
So the other thing is, at night, his testimony was that the board will drop down to 3% of its normal output, correct?
That is correct.
Even so, if the board were worried about the light coming from the billboard theoretically reaching these houses, which again, there will be no light over ambient, but even let's talk about ambient light, one of the standards is that the board has to turn off at 11 p.m., correct?
Correct.
So could it help, if the board were open to it, could it help to even turn off it a little sooner to make sure there was definitely no light anywhere near these houses at night?
Yes, and that could be an appropriate condition that the board could make if they're inclined to approve their application. The D3 is similar to the D2 in the sense that the board can make reasonable conditions of approval to harmonize this use with its surrounding environs. That certainly would do it. I know that Mr. Vogt also testified about the benefits of the LED standard in terms of directing light in the appropriate fashion.
Okay, so just to clarify for the board, as I just spoke to Outfront, as a condition of approval, if the board wanted to, go even earlier than 11 o'clock to turn it off, they would be open to that. Whatever we want to suggest is turning off the board earlier than 11 p.m. I think we'd also have to establish when we turned it back on. That's not in the code, so we could discuss that when we get to the deliberation portion if the board were to act favorably. One other thing that Ms. Sawant discussed before we let you ask your other question, was the 2015 zoning map and the intended future maybe removal of the CC zone over here. You heard that, right?
I did.
Did they, to your understanding, remove that CC zone?
No, not as of yet. It's, and I think Ms. Swan mentioned this, the board has to grapple with is the future planning versus what the code is as of this point, or at least certainly when the applicant applied.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, thanks.
Last question. Did you look at the existing billboards along 9 to see if any of them are closer than 500 feet from residential zone?
I'm going to have a two-part answer. Yes, I looked at them. I did not analyze their distances.
Okay, okay.
I would make one last comment,
Sure.
if I may, and that is, while it's not proof positive, and I know the chairman hasn't opened it up to the public yet, but certainly worth noting that if there are no members of the public here against the application, it goes to the issue of substantial detriment, and I would argue that there would be no substantial detriment.
And I would argue.
That there is no substantial detriment. Thank you.
But of course, we don't know for sure there's no public here. You're just hypothetical. This is hypothetical.
Hypothetical only.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Darch, you have anything?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hallahan? No. No? I'll go to the board members on my left.
I don't agree with about the density.
We need to get the mic.
I don't agree with about the density of the shrubs or the trees blocking the signage to the homes there. I've gone past there many times. It's clear. You can see right through there. And although they are set back, but they are closer to the road. And that's where I disagree with
Okay.
your findings on that.
Fair enough. I would just say that again, using the crane and that board with the bright colors, we both walked and drove, and I found that in my observation, my field observation, that if I took pictures from the mouth of the driveway, you might be able to see the sign, and often you could, but if you walk back on the property, I try not to do that for obvious reasons, but if you walk back, the tree line is really pretty dense, and I could not see the Dunkin' Donuts from many of these positions, so.
Yeah, I just have a question. When was the crane test done?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm sorry.
Give me 1 second.
No, okay, plenty of time.
You got it. Oh, phew, thank you. Commissioner, I'm looking at a exhibit that was handed out by Mr. Antal, which is the simulations,
This is A3, just for the record.
and that shows the crane test was complete on April 8th of this year.
That's correct, and that's when all the foliage is up on the trees and all the leaves are fully covering any of the houses. Thank you.
Yep.
To my right.
Please correct me if I misunderstood anything, but regarding your crane test, you did crane test and you walked the streets and everything, and that was to see if this sign was going to impact just the residents. I didn't hear anything about doing any kind of a test. That's a heavily trafficked road, and I don't know how often that billboard is going to be changing things, whether it's missing children or commercial. But that is so heavily trafficked, and I think that's really very detrimental, because once you're coming up to Marlborough Road, you're coming up to where you're going into Walmart, you have across the street, you have other streets going in, and having just watching, and I've driven by all the time, and I tried to picture what it would be like coming up to where Dunkin' Donuts is, and visually, I would prefer that you had had a test for that. Not that I think there's anything wrong with having it for the residents, but as long as you were having a crane test, also have a visibility test driving by back and forth with all that heavy traffic on 18, especially in that particular area.
So
Thank you.
we did drive the roadway, and if you look back at A3, there are photographs from the roadway where you could see the crane. That was our engineer that did that. Mr. Williams didn't do that one.
Okay.
So at the last meeting, we did speak about that with you.
Commissioner, I can add to that Mr. Vogt's testimony included not only the simulations, but he walked and marked out distances. We all drove with a camera and videoed the approach and departure from the sign. But also Mr. Vogt testified to how the copy, Mr. Antal testified to how copy changes and how we meet the state requirements for copies, the 30-second rule for copy change, which is based on the state's standard for traffic safety, for example. I had one more.
Sorry, I have to clarify something because I cut you off in the middle and confused you. Old Bridge's requirement is 30 seconds, correct?
Correct.
The state requirement is 8, but we are complying with Old Bridge's 30-second requirement.
Correct.
And the messages, you heard Mr. Vogt's testimony, and I believe Mr. Antal testified to this as well. The messages will change instantaneously, no transition, they don't flash, they don't move, there's no animation. It's just static image, 30 seconds later, new static image.
That's correct. So this board, as you'll recall, did ask that the applicant consider 30-second, they call it flips, as opposed to 8-second. Applicant agreed. But Commissioner, the most important point from a planning perspective, I just can't say this enough, is that your governing body determined via that code that this use, the billboard, is a permitted use in this zone district. And so part of the presumption is that it is compatible with the environment, including your concern about the traffic.
Ms. Testaverde, anything?
I'm just curious, like what, Doreen said that, what about in the winter, in the fall? I'm sure the residents are going to
You gotta turn the microphone.
Is it lit?
I'm sure
Is it the green light? Okay. Look at this photo and tell them the neighbor leaves.
I'm sure the residents will be seeing this sign, you know, and what time are we talking about that it would shut off?
So, let me address that one, sorry. We're open to whatever the board suggests as to shutting it off. You know,
6 o'clock?
well, I think, you know, when it's light at 6 o'clock, I don't know how helpful that would be, but, you know, we can, of course, we're open to considering anything you suggest.
But
Yeah.
would you be doing another crane test or, you know, to determine, like, no? So
So-
it's with the leaves all on,
If
it's going to
I,
benefit you, for sure, you know, your client.
sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Can we pull back up the simulations, Maureen? I think you have them in your. No problem. Those are 1449 Route 18, Old Bridge 3. This one? Third on the list. Up 2 more. That one. Thank you. Okay, so can you go to the next page? So, I apologize, we don't have copies of this with us because we introduced this last time, but the trees are actually somewhat bare in this photo, despite the fact that we were there in April. I think, you know, some of them, I don't know, Mr. Williams, if you could tell just by looking at it, maybe some of these are evergreens, but you can see a lot of trees don't have leaves on them when we took these photos. So I would just want to clarify that for the record, that despite we took these in April, the trees were not fully foliaged.
Yeah, especially if you look to the left side of this particular image, it's on the screen, but to council's comment, and I believe Mr. Vogt testified to this as well, not only is there forestation, but not all of those trees are deciduous. Many of them are evergreens, depending on where you are on Route 18. So again, keep in mind that their views are obfuscated by the setback of the homes, the tree line, and based on those field verifications, views were extremely limited from any of those sensitive locations of the sign.
And that's in part, it could also be, you know, trees without leaves can sometimes be a barrier anyway, correct?
Correct. We have images where, to council's point, there is not foliage, but the distance between the trees is so limited that you can't see through the trunks of the trees in many instances where there's no foliage. And that's also captured in some of the aerial photographs that we had. I don't know if they're, well, I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chairperson, so I believe the last meeting you brought up the fact that what if the property beyond them was sold? And it looks like there is some construction being done there.
It has been.
I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Well, I was going to elaborate. I have this one. I don't want to hold that. I'm glad you gave out A8. You spoke to Ms. Sawan's commentary on this. Something very noticeable, if you look at the Route 18 corridor, which will be on the top left coming down, you won't see in the entire length anything other than that CC zone, other than apartments or residential. Now, the history behind Route 18 did not continue on beyond Route 9 until the early 80s. It stopped. There was no place to go. They hadn't continued it. As a matter of fact, Route 18, the history there, more or less ended once you got past the Landing Lane Bridge in New Brunswick, where there was apartments, there were business, and then it came into East Brunswick. East Brunswick, being a community that really didn't turn on until much later.
Right.
It's glaring that the only CC zone in the whole picture happens to be the property where WA was put in. And that's the same property next door that you're asking this to go in. Opposite this roadway, it's all homes. It's all homes, some facing Marlborough Road, some facing the highway. Interesting other exhibits that you sent out. I don't know what one this was marked as, public benefit?
Public benefit package?
That's A4.
A4. I'll speak to A4. There's something glaring about it. Page 3. It's a billboard next to A. Looks like a business to me. A4. It's a billboard. Looks like highway with business. A6. Looks like a rural area, nothing around except the billboard. A7. Picture of a billboard and a business, it looks like, underneath it.
Chairman Fair, that could be a house. That's just a roof. We don't know what that is.
And then on 9, I think it's just a recap of all of them, or others. What one thing don't you see in any of these pictures? Homes.
Well, again, that could be a house's roof on that one
Well,
page.
we'll rip that one out. All the rest of them, what don't you see? Homes.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Now here, I'm gonna finish.
Okay.
Hold on.
apologies.
Well, I figured you need to catch your breath.
Thank
So
you,
talk
and grab
so
some
much.
water.
Have some water. Route 18 coming through Old Bridge from as long as I can remember, prior to 85 or better, was all about 1.5 lanes each way. They didn't improve that until they actually cut through and Route 18 joined from the shore coming northbound, and it was going to the south. They're all homes, and that's all. They're apartments and homes and just greenery with probably unusable land, probably most of it wetlands. So it wasn't until much later. And this picture kind of typifies what I think you have superimposed on this picture. I don't know if I can refer to what a number this was.
A3.
Okay, A3. Right across the street from homes. Now, I read the transcript today, and I read page 41 in particular. And this is the same mathematical kind of ratio that you're trying to get the board to believe. Because it says 1,000 square foot sign, it requires 500 foot from the residential zone. Now, you're seeking a conditional use under D3. But conditional use concern what? Conditions. And what's the condition? It has to be 500 foot away. Yours, 380 square foot. I don't know who the gentleman was speaking that night that talked about this, but I know, sir, you brought it up again tonight. Your sign is only 380, so the sign is now 230 from the residence, and you want to use proportionalities, which are two variables with equivalent ratios, correct? So thus 500 feet would automatically be lowered to 190. Well, that's a lot of smoke and mirrors in my eyes, because the fact is the feet are the feet, and you don't meet 500 feet, plain and simple.
Chairman, if your suggestion is that we can't get a D3, I'm not really sure what we're doing here. I mean, is the suggestion that D3s should not be allowed? I don't understand what your
Not
point is.
whatsoever. I never said that.
Well, so I just want to clarify, because what you did say is the requirement is 500 feet and you don't meet it. So therefore, you can't.
You don't meet one of the conditions.
Correct,
I
so
said
we're
the
seeking a
condition
variance.
is what? Condition is 500 feet, because why? Because there's residences across the
And
street.
we are seeking a variance from that.
And you're seeking that variance, and there's going to be 7 voters, and you're going to need 5 of them to agree
Correct.
with you. That's all.
That's the
And
entire
that's
point
why
we're
you're
making.
here, and I understand that.
Yes,
No one's saying
absolutely.
that you shouldn't be here. I'm just speaking out my opinion.
Understood.
Okay, that's all I have to say for now.
So now that my water break is over, and I thank you for that respite. So I think Ms. Swan captured the conundrum accurately, and that is, notwithstanding the history of the code evolution, The current code permits in this district, which is the only one on the highway, billboards. And so again, that was the reason for my early discussion about legislative intent. Your governing body decided for whatever reason, I understand the history, that this district is appropriate for a billboard, notwithstanding the realities of the land development pattern along this highway. The D3 court case and literature suggests the standard for granting the relief. Again, the presumption of the governing body's use is appropriate for this area, and our challenge was to demonstrate to this board, based on cogent testimony and exhibits, that the site can accommodate that one deviation from your conditional use standards. And again, that proportionality was just to show that while we do not meet that particular conditional use standard of 500 feet, relatively speaking, the sign dimensions are such that they are considerably smaller than that which would be permitted. Again, I'm arithmetically challenged, but that deviation, that delta between 500 and where we are in this zone district. We're presenting an application for a considerably smaller sign at a lesser distance than the strict application of your code. We're arguing that because of that, relatively speaking, we still meet the intent of the code, but more importantly, our argument is the site can accommodate that deviation from your D3 number 6 standard.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have anything other on witnesses?
No other witnesses, Chairman.
Okay.
Mind if I stay seated?
Of course.
Thank you.
How about if I go to the public before you sum?
Of course.
I assume that's what you're going to do, right?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
the next step. Thank you.
All right. What's the number on this? You have your sheet up there? I have it buried under here. 2024? Yeah, thank you. For the public, we're going to open it up now. It's 49-2024Z, Outfront Media. This is the physical location of 1449 Highway 18 in Old Bridge for a multi-message sign. If there's anyone here in the room that wishes to be heard on this matter, please raise your hand or stand. I assume you're not raising your hand back there, sir, right? No, okay. No one has. I'll close the public portion.
Thank you, Chairman.
Back to you, Mr. Weiss.
So just to sum up, thank you all for your time, your comments, and your consideration of our application. As you heard through testimony tonight and back in May, Outfront is proposing here to construct what we're calling a 10.5 by 36 LED outdoor advertising sign. Just a reminder, it will actually be slightly smaller than that number, but for purposes of ease, we're just calling it here in the sum up 10.5 by 36, but the site plan has the actual dimensions. The height will be 37.5 feet, and of course it will be at this property we're discussing. Just to remind the board, the site has already been reviewed and approved by the New Jersey Department of Transportation, and Outfront holds a outdoor advertising permit for this location. Of course, we showed you the new one we got 2 months ago tonight. What we've shown here today is that the application proposes accommodations that will offset the deviations from the distance requirement from the residential zone standard, and importantly, that there will not be any substantial negative impacts on the residential uses or zones. You, of course, heard testimony back in May from Mr. Antal, who is the general manager of Outfront's New Jersey branch, as to the billboard's operations, maintenance, and use. The board is a digital contract, but it will not flash, blink, or be animated, and it will operate in full accordance with all of NJDOT's regulations. And just to be clear about that, if Outfront were to design this board to do any of those things, they would not just be risking their permit for this board, they'd be risking their outdoor advertising license. And I can promise you they do not want to risk 3,500 signs across New Jersey just to put some animations on one sign. The messages, so therefore, will be static for 30-second intervals, as is required by Old Bridge's code, and then change instantaneously. Again, it goes static message to static message. There's no transition. It just, you could see it if you see other signs in the area. It just goes message to message. It's very quick. As we heard, the digital sign offers multiple benefits to local advertisers, the municipality, and the region by being readily accessible for emergency and municipal messaging. And this, of course, includes responsive emergency messaging such as Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts, FBI messaging, and other public emergencies. In addition, Outfront has offered, like it does to all of its municipal partners, to provide public service messaging to the town when it is available, if the town chooses to use that messaging. Outfront also will agree to turn the sign off at either 11 p.m. or, again, whatever time the board would require as a condition of approval. Again, we can discuss in deliberation what the board would like that to be if the board were considering looking favorably on this application. Outfront would then, again, turn the sign back on at whatever time the board would suggest. During that time, the sign will be off and the screen will be black, during whatever period that we were to decide on. Other benefits of a digital sign include crisp and clear imaging, as well as directed light. Mr. Vogt testified that the sign operates through multiple LED modules, which contain internal louvers that direct lighting to the roadway. For this reason, there are no impacts, in our opinion, as you heard from Mr. Williams, to any residential uses or zones. Further, our experts testified that this is a passive use that does not contain any of the typical site plan concerns you normally see. The copies change remotely from Outfront's computers in Spokane, Washington. There's no traffic, no stormwater issues, and no noise. We're only seeking relief for one deviation from the conditional use standards, which, of course, as we've discussed a little animatedly here, is a D3 variance. We're requesting the D3 variance because we will, of course, not meet the distance of 500 feet from the nearest residential zone. As Mr. Williams testified, the requirements for meeting a D3 variance are laid out in Coventry Square versus Westwood Zoning Board of Adjustment. There are positive and negative criteria like with a normal D1 use variance, but those standards are less strict for a D3. We believe we have shown that we meet those criteria. As Mr. Williams discussed, the board must consider for the positive criteria whether the failure to meet the standard at issue materially affects the appropriateness of the site for the use, which takes into account the legislative intent, and whether the site can accommodate the problems associated with the provision at issue. Here, the legislative intent is to buffer billboard uses from residential zones and uses, and the application accomplishes that without meeting the exact 500-foot requirement of the code. The residential uses are buffered by vegetation that is thick enough that we believe even when leaves are not on the trees, there would be minimal effect. And the homes themselves are almost 400 feet away from the sign location because they are set so far back from Route 18. The site is appropriate as it is along a major highway in Route 18. It is in the correct zone, the CC zone, and it's surrounded on its side of the road by other commercial uses. It meets every other requirement of the conditional use under the code. For those same reasons, the sign can accommodate the problems with the conditional use provisions. The sign size is a factor here. I think we've debated this more than enough, but just to clarify one more time, the point we are trying to make, just to be clear for the board, is not that we're suggesting that we deserve an automatic approval for our variance because we are more than 190 feet away from the residential uses by doing that math. The point is simply that we believe, and we are positing to the board, that because we are proposing a sign that is significantly smaller than what's allowed, the impact is significantly less. And so if you think about it and you were to say it should be, 200 feet is about 40% of 500, and we are a little less than 40% of 1,000, if you were to just do it a comparison for impact purposes, it might be the case that being more than 200 feet away from residential uses would suggest that the impact would be negligible. And that, we believe, is the case, given the distance, given the lighting, given the fact that we're going to turn off the board at night, and given the forestry over there by the residences. As to the negative criteria, we've shown that there's no substantial impact on the surroundings. The sign will be oriented towards the roadway, and the nearest residential uses are, again, significantly set back from Route 18. the grant of the conditional use can be reconciled with the legislative intent for the reasons I just went over, but also specifically because billboards are intended to be allowed in the CC zone and along Route 18. Ms. Sawant talked about the fact that, in 2015, the town began considering removing the CC zone along Route 18, and of course, if that zone had been removed, or we were to come here at a time when that zone did not exist here, we would need a D1 variance. That's not under dispute. But the CC zone is still there. And CC on Route 18 is allowed by the legislature. I understand the board's concerns about the history and the character of the area, but the governing body did explicitly allow as a conditional use billboards in this zone along Route 18. This is the only place, and the property next door at the Wawa, where a billboard could even theoretically be along Route 18. The governing body has put the zoning board in a bit of a tough spot. We'll admit that. Mr. Williams talked about that, and Ms. Swan talked about that as well. But as long as we meet the requirements for the D3 variance, our opinion is that the board has to grant it, and we are confident that we have met those requirements under Coventry by going through the test as Mr. Williams did and as I just recapped. Just to remind you of the Wilson case, an enactment that is part of a larger statutory framework should not be read in isolation, but in relation to other constituent parts so that a sensible meaning may be given to the entire legislative scheme. The deliberating body, in this case the zoning board, also must be guided by the legislative objectives sought to be achieved by enacting the statute. The code, again, does allow billboards along Route 18 under certain conditions in the CC zone. We meet all of them but one. The problem with that one is that there is nowhere along Route 18 that you could meet that requirement. So again, the governing body put the board in a tough spot, but we do meet the legislative intent. Nowhere else could meet that unless we were to move this to the Wawa next door, which I think we'd be having the same comments and concerns from the board if that were the case. So, that it would not be a much different application. The council did not intend to ban billboards along Route 18. Even putting aside the zones that billboards are allowed along, or allowed in rather, Route 18 is explicitly named in the code as a place where billboards can be. Again, I understand the board's concerns about the character here, but we have done our best by making this board small, by agreeing to turn it off at whatever time the board would like us to, by meeting every other requirement of the conditional uses to meet the intent here, which again, is to allow billboards on Route 18. Even if you were to not take into account the zones that are allowed, it says right there in the code that billboards should be allowed conditionally along Route 18 in certain zones. But we are in that one. This, in our opinion, is the best spot along Route 18 for a billboard. It's near other commercial uses, and again, it is small enough such that it won't have a substantial negative impact on nearby residential uses. Furthermore, and we discussed this at the last hearing, given the NJDOT regulations, which require 3,000 feet of linear separation on the same side of the roadway between multi-message signs, and the fact that there are no other appropriate zones along Route 18 in Old Bridge, this will be the only billboard here. Again, we're proposing something pretty small that we are confident would not have impact on the nearby residents. And I think, to Mr. Williams' point, those residents were, did not show up as to whatever effect that is, the residents did not show up to suggest they're concerned about it. It is ultimately the board's requirement to be concerned about those residents for them, and we respect that. But we do believe that we have designed this in the only way possible to meet the legislative intent while not having a substantial impact. And again, you don't have to worry about other billboards coming in here. This can be the only billboard like this along Route 18 in Old Bridge. Even if you were to think about a non-multi-message board, if you were to think about one of the other static boards that you've seen, I'm sure, around, those would be at least 300 feet away. That can't be the case either. Again, the CC zone is the only one right here where billboards can be along Route 18. So, if the board were to look favorably upon this, this would be the only one here, and it would not affect the nearby residences. So we, for all the reasons stated earlier, and for the numerous benefits which we have outlined in our testimony and throughout the entire application, Outfront respectfully request, I've been talking a long time. Outfront respectfully requests that this board approve the application and grant the requested D3 conditional variance relief to allow an outdoor advertising sign at this location. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Buckley, this is a use variance, and are the bulks still, oh, I'm sorry, you have a comment?
If we have any literature, I'm reading my notes from the previous meeting on May 1st, and it says that Ben asked the engineer, how far would you see the sign? He answered that while you would be able to read it, you'd see roughly 1,000 feet, light from 1,000 feet. Is that accurate?
So, unfortunately, the engineer's not here. I'm going to do my best to put on my engineering hat, so I
mean,
apologize.
Do we have that in the
That is
transcript?
what he said, but I just want to
said
clarify a
that.
little bit. Yeah, I'm not disputing that he said that. I just want to clarify a little bit. So what he was talking
So
about,
you testifying? Are you testifying?
she asked me to clarify his testimony.
Okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine for purposes.
Thank you.
So what he was talking about is not the illumination of the sign, but the luminance. You can see light from much further away than it impacts. His testimony was that the impact of the light, the illumination, would be limited to 0.3 foot candles over ambient within 187 feet of the actual sign itself. Of course, you can see anything from much further away. You can see light. That does not mean the light actually impacts you. So that was his testimony, that you could see the light, you can perceive the billboard being there from about 1,000 feet up the road, but the light itself is not impacting up to 1,000 feet.
Oh, that wouldn't,
It's directional. Yeah.
that wouldn't affect the residents? I mean, I don't understand
So,
luminous,
yeah.
light,
I tried to do my best. I
Yeah.
apologize. Yeah. So Mr. Williams' testimony was that due to the foliage and the distance, because they're not looking directly at the billboard, they would not be impacted in the same way. It's meant to be directed towards the roadway. That is our testimony, and that's what we're attempting to do here. We have no interest in impacting the residents, I promise you. We would not be designing this in a way that it would.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sawant, did the bulks disappear, or are they still in play? They're still there, minimum lot area, minimum lot width, and minimum front yard setback, right?
You need the microphone.
So they're existing non-conforming, I understand, but we would, if the D3 passes, we would still have to vote on them, correct? I would think you would probably want them on the record, right?
If they're existing conditions, you wouldn't have to, they're not being expanded.
No, they're not changing them, right?
Yeah.
They're not changing.
If they're not changing at all, you wouldn't have to.
You need the microphone.
So in the past too, when there are existing non-conformities, we have. Really? So in the past too, with existing non-conformities, we have not taken a different vote because they're existent.
It's on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Let's use this one.
No, it's working. Right here. Yeah.
It's cheating.
One more time.
Well, the simple answer is, we don't have to, right?
We don't have
Thank
to.
you.
Right, because basically, there's been no expansion of the existing nonconformities.
Okay.
If I'm understanding.
Correct. And what we're doing does not touch those nonconformities at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure I covered you.
No,
Thank you.
I appreciate it, Chairman. I should
All
have
right.
addressed that.
Where's CD?
So we come down to simply voting on a use variance, a D3 conditional use variance, correct?
Simply, yes.
Yes, simply. Board members, if someone is in favor of moving this for an approval on a D3 conditional use variance, please do so. Is someone interested in moving this for denial?
Chevalier will move it for denial.
Second, Scott.
Okay. If there's going to be a vote now on denial, don't forget, you must say a reason. And it's yes to deny, no not to deny. So it's just opposite of the other vote. So there's a first and a second.
Chevalier
Is
and
there
then
a
Scoglie.
reason? Oh, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought something was going on up there. I didn't know. Ms. Chevalier? And Mr. Scogno seconded. As to D3 to deny. Roll call.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes, to deny.
That, you're going to have to say something as why you're saying you're denying.
Yes to deny.
And why?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Yes.
We need to get.
Hold on.
We need to get, hold on.
She can reach this one, right?
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the residents, but I'm also concerned about the traffic and where it is, in my estimation, driving along 18, which is a very, to me, treacherous road. I just can't see it not being a distraction. Thank you.
You can continue with the roll.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes, to deny. You don't meet all the criteria, positive criteria for the residents.
Hey, you're going to need this.
Unfortunately, we are in a bad position with the CC zone. I think it wasn't possible. We just didn't get to do it with the 2015 master plan. However, the rest is EDO3, and these type of signs aren't permitted there. As far as you saying that the homes are set back 500 feet, that was intentionally done, I'm sure, 35 years ago to keep the residents away from the thing. So whether there's foliage or not, I still think it's invasive, and this is a residential area that your sign still will glow into. So you didn't meet the D3, your shortage on your footage.
Continue the roll. There you go. This one's not going to go that far.
Mr. Scogno?
Thank you. Yes to deny. Once again, I do not agree with the foliage and the clearance of the brightness from the sign will affect the residents. I've been down that road a number of times. Thank you.
Mr. Stoner?
I'm gonna say no.
No, he's saying no. So he's fine. No, it'll be,
Ms. Testaverde?
hold,
Yes to the deny, doesn't meet the 500 feet criteria. Thank you.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes, to deny. I'm concerned about the lighting effects with the residents there, and the crane test, they didn't do it in the wintertime.
Chairman Sullivan?
well, for all the aforementioned reasons, I'll address a couple. Probably there's no residents here because they're not in the 200-foot zone, so they probably wouldn't have got called or notified because they're beyond that. This sign is 230 foot from the residents' properties where 500 is necessitated, and I don't see the variable equivalent ratios that were presented. The foliage is described as a forest, and it's far from that. I think A3, I think you said. A3 clearly depicts that it's not a forest. So I don't agree with that either. I don't think the site is suitable. The site's not suitable because why is that CC zone carved out there? I don't know. Did they miss taking off that billboards? Well, it really doesn't matter because they are a conditional use. But I'm not going to vote for it, so my answer is no. I'm sorry. My answer is yes to deny. Counselor, that would be it.
Thank you.
The application's been denied. But thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Commissioners.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, of course. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. I think you're going to stay on, but you need a break. We need to reset. We'll be back and try and make it 5 minutes possible. Sorry, we're back on the record from the recess. Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Shaw?
Certainly. Mrs. Andrews?
Present.
Ms. Chevalier?
Here.
Mr. Scogno?
Here.
Mr. Stoner?
Here.
Ms. Testaverde?
Here.
Ms. Gomez? Here. Chairman Sullivan?
I'm here.
Oh, you took your microphone?
I don't have a microphone.
Hold on. Hold on. So sorry. Oh, shoot.
No, I know, need one too.
Is this one working?
promise we're usually running much more tighter ship.
Can I have one also?
Oh, you don't, oh, the rest of them are piled over there. Oh. I'm sorry. One moment. Where's it? Yes, we are. No, it,
1, 2, 1, 2.
go again?
1, 2, test. Okay, we're back on the record. We've had a roll call. Again, I want to apologize to everyone here this evening. The technical difficulties that we've had due to the storm, which yesterday took out a major component in here that we couldn't broadcast. So we're working under a little disabling conditions, but thank you all for your cooperation. I want to make an announcement at this point. The rules of the board or the meetings are from 7:30 to 10:30 with testimony to stop at 10 and with the 30 minutes remaining for public portion. The problem is tonight we went way over on the last application, and those are the people that are sitting in here. In front of us, we have one more application and then two more residential homeowners with matters. I'm asking them if they would agree to not come on tonight because I can't fit them in. It's just, we're going to go too long. They've been kind enough to accept, so they don't sit here for another 45 minutes. They've sat here all night, and I truly apologize for that. But I sometimes have no control over the testimony and the length of the testimony. They have agreed to both be put on our very next meeting on 10/16. I tell you, when I'm telling you, you're going to be put on first. There's one person coming for a vote, then your two applications will be next. So we start at 7:30. I can anticipate you being on before 8 o'clock. So please, I'm going to try my best to get this other application out of the way tonight. And I don't mean to diminish your application, Mr. McGowan. We'll work around it. Once again, I want to thank you as residents of the community. Well, obviously, we're all residents here. I know that you were very patient tonight. I can only offer my apologies, but I can offer you that these applications will be put on. I'm going to read them into the record right now. 17-2025Z, that's Anthony Francanero. That's the physical location, it's 49 2nd Street in Old Bridge. And the other one is 19-2025Z. That's Nathaniel Cruz. That's 259 Amboy Road in Manawan. And those applications will not be heard this evening. They are being moved to October 16th. There'll be no further notice. And I, once again, thank you very much for your patience, both of you, okay? And Mrs. Francanero and Cruz. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, having said that, we're going to move forward. I hope this is, ladies, we're being picked up on the recorder. 06-2025Z, it's 2G Poor Farm LLC, Old Bridge Point. This is blocks 5,000, 5,005, 5,006, lots 20, 1-9, 1-29, Lucy Drive, Lola Drive, and Poor Farm Road for solar lighting. They're seeking amended preliminary and final subdivision. Robert McGowan, representing the applicant. Mr. McGowan.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Robert McGowan. I'm here representing the applicant, 2G Poor Farms LLC. A housekeeping question. Now that all this has been restored, do I still need to produce a transcript for tonight?
Counselor? I don't, are we back on live cable?
Yes, we are.
I can't promise that it will go through.
If a transcript is needed, we will have.
But what I've also been told was we were going out over YouTube Live.
Okay.
So that would be there.
Okay.
Am I correct, Jake?
We will have all of the audio and footage up on YouTube tomorrow.
All right. So
To you, sir.
I appreciate then you willing to stay, whatever we owe you. Okay. I thank you so much. All right.
All right, we'll just give a brief moment for the stenographer to, are you okay? All right, okay. Okay. Goodbye, and thank you for being here
Thank
tonight.
you so much.
It was a rough
for
night
being
for
so
you.
kind.
All right, Mr. McGowan.
All right.
You can proceed.
The application, of course, was here through the last couple of years. At this point, the subject of the application is a completely, well, not completely finished development. There's still the final site improvements. The road has to be paved. Some cleanup issues have to occur. But all the homes have been sold. There were 35 homes altogether. Of them, 17 were duplexes, and then there was a single. Included in that, because of the incredibly insistence of your planner, there are in fact 7 affordable homes that were sold to the people. And if you go there, you would intentionally, because of the intent of how this was improved, you would have great difficulty telling what's affordable and what was market. So this is quite a unique development, and I think it has gone well, and I think it is, a great improvement for the area. What happened in the transition was that as it was being developed and they were working with Jersey Central Power and Light and trying to analyze the cost both of the construction and the after cost, because the roads are private. They are not going to be maintained by Old Bridge. They're going to be maintained by the Homeowners Association. As a result, the lighting is also going to be paid for by the Homeowners Association. So as the developer analyzed the installation costs and then the eventual costs, it became clear that the eventual costs, and as we know, energy rates have continued to climb, and in fact, is kind of a political issue in the state at this point as the advancement of those rates. With the solar, the Homeowners Association will realize substantial savings. So with that, it was redesigned to do solar. It was an oversight and an unintentional error that it never cleared through engineering here in Old Bridge. Our engineer went through it, redesigned it, went back and forth, everyone agreed on it. There was some confusion as to who was going to submit it, and I think each thought the other was, and it didn't get submitted. And so as a result, where maybe it could have been an engineered approval with further consideration, and because we do have a variance in the height, our poles are 19 feet where only 18 feet are allowed, we are now before the board for this variance. Waiver, I'm sorry, for the waiver. So that's what we're here for tonight, is to talk about the lighting, to see how it impacts the community, see how it lines up, whether it serves the purposes. Do we have any other deviations from what the code requires, and how does this fit into the community? What I'd like to have is John Vincenti sworn in. He is a representative of the applicant and the owner, and provide a little further background for you.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name and spell your last.
My name is John Vincenti, Vincenti. I'm employed by Level 10 Development, the developer of the property. I am the director of development. I'm also a licensed engineer and planner, although we have our engineer here to give the expert testimony. I'm really just to give some of the background and facts associated with this.
You're testifying as to?
I'm testifying to as the circumstances around the lighting design.
Okay, so you're a professional engineer and you're a professional planner?
Yes.
But he's mostly testifying as a fact witness.
I understand. We'll recognize his credentials, certainly. He's testified
please.
before this board before.
Yes, yes.
So as Mr. McGowan indicated, the community is pretty well built out. The roads are paved. The base course is in. We anticipate final landscaping, final paving, all completed by November. When we first anticipated and made our application for the 35 homes, we proposed that the roads would be publicly owned, publicly maintained by the township. And during the staff reviews, we made the switch that the improvements would be owned by the Homeowners Association. The original anticipation was that, like any public right-of-way, JCP&L being the local utility, they have a street lighting program where the utility would come in, essentially the developer pays JCP&L to put the infrastructure in. It's a wired system, and basically the street lights are then paid directly and billed directly to the municipality, and the township pays the bills. In the case of a private property or private development, JCP&L's policy, and it changed a number of years ago, they will not entertain that type of arrangement, even though the look of the community may suppose or presuppose that these are typical residential roads. Because they are maintained by a private entity, JCP&L wants to kind of get out of something that they don't make money on. And in this particular case, we performed an outreach to JCP&L. They made it clear that they had no intention of entertaining the street program for this community. So we evaluated a cost, long-term and short-term cost of operating the lights, maintaining the lights of the homeowners association, as opposed to with two different options. One is the traditional hardwired option, where the homeowners would be billed on a monthly basis, just like you get your bill for electric at your house. And we evaluated also the alternative of solar. The benefit of the solar is really towards the monthly nut that the homeowners association would have to pay. There's no electric bill. They're 100% solar operated. The long-term savings is substantial when we performed the financial analysis. And the analysis that we performed was based on 2003 rates. We performed it in 2004, and as you all well know, the monthly rates that everyone in the state pays have escalated dramatically. As homeowners, typically, we're seeing 20 to 25%, 24%. But the street lights accounts are commercial in nature, so there would be even a larger escalation to the homeowners for this. The cost to the developer are essentially the same. We had to pay for the lights, we had to install them. The actual infrastructure costs of the underground installation is not necessary with the solar. There's no wiring associated with it. The upfront costs, though, are a little bit more expensive to the developer, and we felt the long-term benefits, though, really weighed very largely on the small incremental upfront costs. And we're seeing our homeowners benefit, quite frankly. We're going to turn over the association. We have probably a $50,000 budget surplus that the homeowners are going to get the benefit of with our reserve analysis that we did. And the idea is when we turn over the community fully built, the homeowners have a good reserve, and the lack of paying JCP&L played a large part in that. So we're here for an amended site plan approval that really just memorializes the lights that we've installed. As Mr. McGowan indicated, we had our engineer do an analysis. The lighting plan that we came up with respect to lighting intensities, for all intents and purposes, the illumination is equal to what was originally shown on the plan. And I think that's borne out and documented in the the review memo that your consulting engineer prepared. The only real difference is the fact that these particular light fixtures are mounted higher than the 13-foot lantern style. We have a mounting height of what we believe to be 18 feet. The middle of the structure of the fixture is 19 feet above grade. To the top of the solar panel is an approximately an additional 3 to 4 feet above the 19 feet. Your ordinance puts the mounting height requirement at 18 feet maximum. So technically, we're seeking a waiver for that height. But we think the aesthetics associated with these lights are different than what you see with your typical lantern style. We think they're a little stylish. The other benefit to these lights, quite frankly, is the luminaire is not really real evident. With the lantern style, that light bulb is evident to the eye. This particular fixture has an LED that's mounted to the bottom, so the light is projected down. So if you're in the house on the second floor, you really don't see that the light bulb visible. So even though it's a little bit higher, we do not believe that it is an impediment to the visibility of the residents. As a matter of fact, we have gotten no comments, no complaints from the residents in the community now. There were some questions in the review letter that dealt with why we did this, and really it was twofold, because JCP&L wouldn't support the community, and because of the cost savings generated to the homeowners association. There's a question with respect to how the energy is stored, how it's collected by the solar panels. So there are batteries. There's a battery pack integral to the panel underneath, mounted to the panel, and that battery gets the energy during the day and then expends it during the evening hours when the light is working. There's no interconnection from one light pole to the other. Each one is all self-contained. There is a useful life of those batteries. It's a module that is popped out and replaced. That replacement cost was all built into the financial analysis that we provided to the township when we made this application. That financial analysis was required by Nicole Shapiro, and we provided that as part of the application. So the financial benefit is, as I've indicated, is significant. So, question about the lighting of the tot lot. The tot lot is really not intended to be utilized after dusk. The lighting illumination levels in the rear cul-de-sac area are similar to actually exactly the same as what was previously approved in the lighting plan. So in summary, I know Kevin, our engineer, is going to go through the other bulk issues in the review letter, but that's the reason behind this, and why we are here seeking the waivers and an amended site plan dealing solely with the lighting issues.
And because it is an amended site plan, we did give notice. Unlike the presentation before us, our people were all notified that we were doing this, and they obviously saw it, so.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vicente. Mr. Dargy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have a review memo dated, I just had it on my screen and it left me. Give me 1 second.
July 28th.
July 28th. Thanks, John. Mr. Vincenti did provide some of the testimony we had requested. And I guess in the interest of brevity in the late hour, I'll just summarize our concerns. I did get a chance to speak to Ms. Shapiro earlier today about this application. I mean, it's been a few months. We met out there back last spring. May actually have been early spring, I think, when we met out there.
Probably around February.
Yeah. Okay, late winter. In any case, our concerns were obviously the lights were installed without us knowing that the fixtures had changed. The concerns were the height of the lights, which the approved lights for this development were a little under 13 feet. They were 12.75 feet height. It was more of a decorative light fixture that was to be installed. That was the standard JCP&L light that Mr. Vincenti was describing. What is installed is quite a bit taller. The actual light element itself is mounted at about 18 feet. The fixture is about 19 feet. Then there's a solar panel and battery and everything that goes up to, I guess, about 21, 22 feet in height. The concern was the height of the element being near the second floor windows. The locations of the lights also is different, right, from where it was on the approved plans. I'm sorry, it is where they were supposed to be on the approved plans, but they do wind up being proximate to the windows. And I guess you said you guys haven't got any complaints, right, John?
No.
But my understanding from Nicole is that she has received some concerns from some residents. I don't know if that's been conveyed to you or to Ryan Holmes.
It has not. I'm the president of a homeowners association. I've conducted the meetings, and
Okay,
not
and-
one resident has made any comments with respect to the lighting.
Okay.
The only comments we've received from the community members are they want to look at the finances, and we've provided them with that.
Then the other concern that we had, and I'm looking in my files to see if I can find the financial analysis that you referred to, because I didn't see it in my my files here.
I noticed that you did not address it in the items. I know that it was provided both digitally and hard copies because I provided both personally.
Okay.
And that's, it was, I think, conspicuously absent in.
Yeah, well, it's not in our
I kinda
memo.
figured you didn't
Yeah.
get it. I kind of figured you didn't get it.
Right, and I don't know that Nicole's seen it either, because her and I had this very same conversation today. And I know it's hearsay, but we had the same conversation today. The concern that we have, and just down to brass tacks, is HOAs. I've never met any HOA that is flush with cash. Never, especially 20, 30 years down the road. And our concern really is that these lights, the maintenance of the batteries and the fixtures, which happens throughout, and then eventually there's going to need to be more of a wholesale kind of replacement of either the batteries or fixtures. And our concern is that the HOA is going to basically be coming to beat down the township's door to take ownership of these lights and replace them. And that's something that we obviously are concerned with and we're trying to head off. And our thinking of heading that off was to make sure that there's an actual reserve. I'm glad you referred to the reserve, because that's our idea as well. Brilliant minds think alike. So we wanted to see what that reserve would be, right? Like how much are we putting aside and designating specifically with a bright label that says, this is for these lights, don't go beating down the town's door in 20 years.
So both versions of the budget and the reserve studies that we did had money in both budgets for lights. The issues of replacement of the light fixtures, the light posts, the infrastructure, the wiring, versus the solar and the batteries was always in the lighting was always in the budget from the get-go. The maintenance responsibilities were always in the HOA documents. Naturally, there are two different calculations associated with that because of the need to replace wires versus not needing to replace wires. The need to replace light bulbs is basically the same.
Right.
The poles is basically the same cost. The fixtures are very similar. There is a cost associated with the solar and the battery, and we took that into consideration in both budgets that were done initially when it was wired, and now when it's solar. The real big cost differential is the monthly nut paying those bills for electric, and that's what really makes the difference long term. So when we met with in February, it was very clear that that was an issue, and in the follow-up correspondence between the Township Engineer's Office and our office, that was made pretty clear to us, and that's why we did provide the two different reserve analyses and budgets.
So I guess,
And we believe, you know, we've met that standard.
so I haven't had a chance to look at that reserve analysis, obviously, either of those analyses. Initially, when the board approved the application here, I think the understanding was that JCP&L would be doing the, maintenance and all that stuff. So I understand that you did the two analysis to demonstrate that, hey, listen, we intend now, since JCPL is not in the picture, we either would install standard lights or these solar lights, and here's the difference between these solar lights and standard lights. So what I'm getting at is, either way, now we're basically approving or being asked to approve something where the HOA is going to be maintaining these lights, and we just need to see the analysis to make sure that there is there's going to be money in 20 years or whatever to replace these lights if there needs to be. The only thing in the interest of moving forward here tonight is, if the board acts favorably, I would feel comfortable if there was an agreement that if our office and the Township Engineer's Office reviews this and we find that there's a payment that needs to be made by the developer to sort of supplement that you agreed to that payment. And of course, you can always come back and say, if we don't agree, you can come back to the board and argue your case later.
I would say, within reason, yes.
Well, yeah, everything's within reason, right?
And if we don't agree on the number, we'll come back.
Right.
The other thing that we know when these communities are transitioned to the homeowners association, there is a transition report that's done, and they look at the finances. Another thing that we did in running the association is we self-managed it, and basically did not pay a third party to manage the association up until probably about 4 or 5 months ago. So there was a substantial savings associated with that. We did not pay ourselves to run the association. We're doing that with all our communities, especially up front, because we know that the budgets are generally tight. That's another reason why we have a significant surplus in the account right now. That will be made available, turned over to the association. It's in a separate account. We collect reserves. Okay, if there's a shortfall, we kick in from our own pocket to meet that budget, even though we're not spending it. So that when it comes time, we know the HOAs are looking to be made whole at transition, and if we're transparent about it and the money's sitting in an account, there's less of a difficult transition, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Personally, I'm managing probably 8 homeowners associations, president of the board of 8 of our communities. I don't want to be burdened with 8 transitions that become very costly and onerous. So it's in our best interest to make sure the money's there when the time is right to turn it over.
Yeah, I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, and that all makes perfect sense. My only concern is when the HOA takes over, they see money sitting there, and they're like, oh, well, you know, we have money here. We need something that, and maybe this is written into your documents, we'd need to see it. We need something that says, hey, HOA has been advised, these lights are yours, and there's gonna be a long-term cost. And I know, and I wanna see it, and, because my problem is always it's human nature, they're looking to cut their costs, they're looking to balance their budgets, and they're like, well, maybe our HOA fee doesn't have to be $120 a month, maybe it can be $90 a month because John left us all this money. And so that's, we want to make sure that there's some controls in place, because I know you see it on your end, and on my end.
You see it too.
What's that?
You see it.
Yeah, I see it on my end, and on my end, what I see is HOAs, at least, a few a year. I'm sitting through township committee meetings where people are coming to complain about their trash, the cost of their trash, the cost of their lights, the cost of their roads. Some HOAs don't even know that they are responsible for the roads, and they have their residents coming to committee meetings asking for the roads to be repaved. So these are all things that probably go beyond this lighting issue we're talking about. But I just want to make sure that this lighting issue is addressed crystal clear in those documents and in the financial pro forma you're talking about.
The HOA documents were also submitted with the application.
Yep. I will review those as well.
I'd just like to add to that the thought that while it makes sense to look that we've properly set it up and the budget that the developer has established is a reasonable budget and it has appropriate reserves and so forth, there is no way that any of us can guarantee what the future homeowners association is going to do. I mean, your point, Rakesh, that they may look at, just like town council sometimes look at all of this money they have in reserve, and an election is coming up, and so we're going to, not increase taxes this year, when really a proper planning should say you should maintain the budget that you have. So all I'm saying is we can show that we've set it up properly for the homeowners to be protected, and if they continue to operate in a proper manner and follow the guidance that we've given them, they should be in great shape. But none of us can control what they may do in the future.
I thought DCA was making homeowners associations establish budgetary constraints that they have to have enough money in order to be covering. Is it DCA or did the state enact something? I'm on a homeowners association. That's why I'm questioning that.
I believe it's the DCA.
Right.
And what they're requiring is it might be annual or biannual, but it's what's called a reserve study.
Yes.
Okay, so the reserve study is not intended to account for your daily operations, but it's your rainy day.
Future.
It's your rainy day fund. Okay, and to tell you where we are with our reserve, our total budget is $69,000. That's what we collect on a yearly basis. I have a $25,000 of that $69,000 budget is the annual reserve amount
Contribution reserve.
that goes into a separate account set aside for reserves. That's the rainy day. Now, the intent is that's there for the long-term maintenance, which includes the paving here. It includes, replacing the sand in the recharge basin. It includes the fence, replacing the fence around the detention basin. It includes the lights. It includes maintenance on the retaining wall in this community. It includes things of that nature.
What I'm concerned with is JCP&L is providing electric to everybody's home, correct?
Yes.
The poles did they put those poles? No,
No.
there was a new development, so you put the poles up.
Yes.
And JCP&L was sending electric to the pole for the street lighting
Yes.
only.
Yes.
Totally separate. Each homeowner gets their own bill for their own electricity.
Yes.
The HOA was going to pay for the electric bill. correct?
The way, well, the way it was going to be set up, there would be separate meters that would power the light fixtures, and the bill for those meters would go to the homeowners association, as opposed to a straight bill that goes to the township. It's set up differently.
Well, to the township.
If this was a municipal program, there's no meter, there's no consumption bill. There's a regular bill. The town is billed X amount per light pole in the community.
If the roadway was dedicated to the township.
Correct.
This roadway is not dedicated to the
Correct.
township. So therefore, the bill went to the HOA.
It would have had we done a traditional
I understand.
electric. Yes.
I understand. What happens, who's going to fix this stuff? The HOA is responsible, right?
Either way, in this community,
Well, it
either
can't be
way.
either way. The town's
Whether
not
it's-
going to do it.
No. We had an option to go with the hard-wired electric,
Mm-hmm.
but the municipality would not pay for the electric bill, and JCP&L would not be responsible for maintaining those utility poles, those lighting poles. That would fall on the homeowners association.
Right.
So we chose the solar option.
And JCP&L was charging a commercial rate for providing that.
Well, whatever it
Yes.
may be,
Yeah.
the town wasn't paying the bills.
Right.
The-
Correct.
The HOA is paying the bill.
Correct.
Okay.
In the situation where the town is paying the bill and that light pole needs to be replaced, that's on JCP&L. They have to replace the wiring, they have to replace the light fixture, they have to change the bulbs, they have to, that whole infrastructure is on them, and that's where it's a loss leader to them. It's not the initial upfront cost of the installation, it's the long-term maintenance to JCP&L. That's why they're getting out of the lighting business in privately owned developments.
They're not going to sell lighting.
They're out of it. They in no community in New Jersey, if it's a private community, they will not entertain enrolling that community in their street lighting
They're
program.
not taking on anything new, you mean?
And that's been now for probably around 10, 12 years, something like that.
Well, they take care of ours. They change our bulbs.
That's because that predates their change in policy.
That's what I'm saying. This is something new coming forward.
Relatively new, yes.
What happens when this stuff breaks?
It's on the
It's on the community,
It's on
right?
the association.
And why is the necessity to take it from 18 to 3 or 4 foot higher, depending on?
It's basically the design of this particular solar fixture.
It needs to be higher to spread light?
That's the way it's designed. And it's a lantern style, but the way the aesthetics is not mounting it on top of a pole. It's kind of like got a gooseneck and it kind of hangs. It's a totally different aesthetic type of look. It's a lantern. It's a more contemporary type of lantern design. And what that does is it allows that the light bulb, the LED fixture, to be mounted flat, directed down, as opposed to if it was on top of a pole, then you have to have that the light bulb actually visible in that lantern style, in the four walls of the glass.
Okay, so it's out of necessity that you did this, not just out of choice. The height.
Well,
It's because of the way it works.
It's
Well,
because
just so the board can understand.
It's because of this particular fixture design.
Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
All right. And basically, you're here, you want the board to amend the plan to allow for this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's they're asking for an amended site plan to revise the lighting design, and then there's also design waivers that are associated with it.
Okay. Are you going to have another witness?
If the board
let me-
has questions.
I'm going to see if the board does, but I'm saying you're going to have another witness.
We
right?
do have the engineer if there are any questions.
Okay, well, let's go see if the board has any questions. None? Mr. Scott? And Counsel, you have any? Oh, Pat, I'm sorry.
How was the homeowners that I'm assuming they're not in their homes just yet, or
Yeah,
are
they
they?
are.
They are. How were they notified about this dilemma?
So About this meeting, they were given a
No, about the
notice of
change of the, and were they,
So-
you know, was it explained to them that
So inherent in-
HOA, excuse me, and like he stated, you know, HOAs, I've had an HOA, I had a condo, and they're unpredictable, and was this explained to them? Because I'm sure they bought it thinking, oh, you know, the township, the city light, yada, yada, yada.
From the get-go, the homeowners association documents were clear that the lighting was to be maintained and paid for by the association.
Okay.
Okay. So it was always disclosed. Now, at that time, it was understood or contemplated that it would be electrical. But
You
it
were
was
saying-
not, it was understood by us or anticipated.
But you said that the township would pay that. So now
Well,
you're saying the HOA.
No. So when we first came in with the application, we wanted it to be a township road. When the application was discussed and ultimately approved, it was made clear by staff that they said, no, the town does not want to maintain this.
Then
Okay?
you
So
advised
it was
potential owners?
It was reviewed and approved. Then what happens is we create the homeowners association documents. This is before any marketing is done.
Okay.
Okay. The HOA documents say lighting is maintained and the cost is borne by the residents.
Okay.
That information is disseminated. Okay.
Okay,
It
you
didn't
put me
it
at
didn't
ease.
say-
Okay.
It didn't say hardwired electric lights. It says electrical lighting. There was no differentiation ever made between solar or hardwired.
They were pre-notified.
That
They
it's
noticed.
on their.
Okay, thank you.
cost is theirs.
One of the requirements of selling homes in a homeowners association or a condo association is you have to have a public offering statement that's registered with the DCA and which is made available to all the homeowners. All that information is in there. Yep.
So JCP&L will not come in there anymore.
No, absolutely
They
not.
don't even want to.
Nope.
They'll put in regular lighting. And
No,
They
not
won't even
in
do
this
that.
community, no, because
Not at
it's a
all.
private
Okay.
road.
Yeah,
No.
because it's a private roadway. That's the
I got it.
rub.
I got it. Okay.
I just have a question for Mr. Dargy. So what if, like, we have a bunch of other town, communities where they had an HOA and it's been dissolved?
Yeah.
Or it just dissipated? No one even, you know, some people moved in there and said, we've never even had an HOA when there was one. What happens then? Does it still fall back on this community? Our
So-
hands are clean.
Yeah, I mean, that's a legal question, not an engineering question.
DCA takes over.
But I'll defer to our attorneys on that. But the HOAs are difficult at times. That's the reason why my whole thing is to make sure it's crystal clear at this stage what everyone's responsibilities are. And then, yeah, you just gotta keep your fingers crossed that the HOAs don't dissolve, right?
The only thing we can do is make it crystal clear at this point. And then it
Yeah.
hopes that when it does happen, if that does happen, that everybody's on the same page.
I think communities get taken over by DCA if they cannot survive, correct?
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know the answer to that. I don't.
I have a couple questions.
I know what the answer is.
Oh,
They
okay.
do.
I believe you, but I don't know.
I have a couple technical questions. How long have the lights been up?
About a year and a half.
Do you ever run into problems where we've had 3-4 days of rain and the lights don't come on?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
That's what the batteries are for.
So the
And
batteries
and-
last long enough.
And even
that-
though it's a cloudy day,
Get a little
you're
bit.
still collecting energy through the cells.
How long can they go without that battery backup? Is it a week or 2 weeks?
I don't know if it's that long, but it's several days. I don't have the
All right,
technical
But it
data.
hasn't been a problem.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Anybody else on the board, any questions? No. Mr. Dargy?
I don't have any more questions for Mr. Vincenti now.
Do you want to hear anybody else?
You know, Kevin, I just had a couple, and I don't know if you had,
Swear 'em in.
I apologize, but
Okay. let's do that.
And they're very, very minor technical
Oh,
questions.
We want to be right.
Yeah.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you state your name and spell your last?
Kevin Shelley, Shelley.
And Kevin, you're the engineer who testified throughout this application, right?
He has testified before this board before. I'll recognize his credentials and his expertise.
Thank you.
So the only question I really have is regarding the illumination levels. I don't know if you had a chance to review our memo.
Yep.
The illumination levels are different, obviously, a little bit, because you're never going to get exactly the same, right? From 12.5 or 12 3/4 foot tall acorn-style fixtures, and you went to 18-foot LED fixtures, spread a little bit further apart. So the illumination is going to be a little bit different. The question that I have, though, is the averages that we have they're identical to the ones before. Did you guys recalculate them, and they actually are identical, or is that just something that wasn't
Yeah,
done
we
yet?
did. We redid them. We modeled the fixtures. We modeled them at different heights to see what gave us that same level that was approved. And that's answers your question of how we ended up at an 18-foot height. That's what gave us the equivalent lighting levels that were approved previously, and how we ended up here.
So you worked from those averages backwards to make sure that
Yeah, we
they were
adjusted
met.
it. We started at 15. We were
Okay.
up at 21.
Okay.
We found it at 18. Gave us what was previously approved and consistent, which in our mind was an approved equivalent.
Okay.
Then the height comes up.
All right, perfect. Yeah, that was my only real question, because it seemed like I was like, wow, that's kind of amazing. But if you start with that as your baseline and go from there, that would work. All right, and then let me just go down my list. I apologize. I think Mr. Vincenti gave most of the testimony that we were looking for, but
I think the only other one was about uplighting on the site sign. There is no lighting on the site sign. So
okay, it looked like there were on the plan.
yeah, we contemplated it, but there is no uplighting. It's not installed. It won't be installed.
Okay, perfect.
And then the other comments about adding or updating the plans with the road names, we have no problem with that.
All right. I think that was it. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions for Mr. Shelley. I think the only thing left is, and I think Mr. Vincenti agreed to the one condition that I suggested, which is Ms. Shapiro and I will review the financial analysis that the applicant prepared, and should we find that there's a lump sum that's required to sort of augment the reserve so that the lights can be replaced or repaired going into the future, the applicant agreed to that. Should we not come to an agreement, then the applicant would have to come back here to.
So conditionally, you would agree to agree, and if you don't, you got to come back.
We'll come back. If we can't agree, then we'll have to come back to you. Sure.
Let me see if the board members have any more questions for Mr. Shelley. On my left. On my right. Have you done communities before with this lighting?
We're seeing this particular light fixture. No, we're seeing this in a lot of other communities across the state. Same issue with JCP&L about not coming into private developments.
Could you assure the board that this works
Yeah, they work. The light fixtures actually look great. They give a nice distribution. I think they're.
You're the professional. We're just the.
I think what we see this type of fixture in a lot of communities. This exact one, they differ. There's a lot of options out there now, as opposed to just JCP&L telling you, here's 2 acorn styles, and they've all worked pretty successfully so far.
Thank you. Mr. Dargy, do you feel comfortable saying that we could safely agree to amend the preliminary and final with the condition that it's...
I do, Mr. Chairman. I think from a technical standpoint, all the standards are met. The only issue is the long-term cost for maintenance, and we're going to work that out according to the applicant.
And this is already happening, so...
The lights are in. The lights are in, and yeah, functional.
You have anything else, Mr. Nagel?
No, I do not.
Anybody else have any questions of this witness or any witness? No? You want to sum, or you're good?
No,
All right,
nothing else to say.
All right, board, you've heard everything. We've heard from the professionals. They're putting their licenses on the line, so they say it can work, and
Evidence.
We should be okay to do this. Would somebody be in favor of amended major preliminary, and then we'll do final?
Chevalier approve?
Roll call, please, as to amended major preliminary.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes, with the financial.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes, providing the financial.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes, with the financials.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes, the major preliminary. And now to amend it final. Someone move it.
Chevalier will move it.
I'm sorry, Chevalier and Testaverde. We'll give Maureen a chance.
Chevalier and
over
Testaverde. Okay,
Ready to go?
Yeah. Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes, thank you, your professionals, Mr. McGowan and yourself.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
hanging
very
out.
much, members of the board.
We didn't want to be here this long either, so don't feel bad.
Well, thank you.
All right, please leave. Not you, no. Doreen wants to leave, she's got to get to work. Having nothing else, Mr. Dodgy, nothing from the township? Okay, Maureen, nothing from the township other than next meeting is?
October 16th.
October 16th. Board
And it's a full
members,
one.
I don't think anybody has any final comments. Once again, Mr. Stoner, thank you for your years of service to the board. We appreciate that. Thank you. And I'll ask you if you will call for an adjournment?
Let's go home.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we stand adjourned.